Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, and you are here in person and online at the Mililani Neighborhood Board. Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you for coming on this chilly evening. It's about 65 degrees here in Mililani. I'd like to welcome you all, and let's please begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I just want to provide this friendly update and notice, since we have some new faces here in person and online. This is a hybrid meeting, which means that it is both here in person and we have attendees, members of the public and members of the board online. So for the duration of this meeting, if you have questions that you'd like to present to any of the presenters, report, or the board members, please raise your hand. I will recognize you. And please come to the microphone here, state your name for the record, and you can ask your question. This is a very public and open community meeting. I do ask that people raise hands both in person and online, both members and members of the public, so that I'm able to just navigate efficiency for this meeting so that we can have a good fluid meeting between online participants and those in person. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Rachel, our Neighborhood Commission Office Neighborhood Assistant, to provide the roll call and establish quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. When I call your name, please state that if you're present. Rana? Thank you. Among? Present. Karmadi? Oh, I see Karmadi online.
Present.
Tao?
Present.
Thank you. Present. Flores? Present. Freed? Okay. I think she said she was might be out tonight. Okay. Gustafin?
Here.
Thank you. Ka'anehe?
Present. Line.
Thank you. Ka'apanaaki? Kim?
Present online.
Thank you. Pupuka'a? Sasha Lee?
Present online.
Thank you. And then Marilyn Lee is here. Thank you. Nagamine?
Here.
Thank you. Ozawa? Park? Ross?
Present online.
Thank you. Segura? Smart?
Present.
Thank you. Tersina?
Present.
Thank you. Williams?
Present online.
Thank you. Bass?
Present.
With that, we have 16 members present. Thank you.
All right, and members, before we continue, I'd like to take this opportunity to share a moment of silence for the Fujioka and the Chun Ohanas. They're both families, large families in the Mililani area, and the Chuns have actually personally been here to this neighborhood board a few times. So their children are both missing. It's received a lot of news and the media attention, and a lot of our own community is out there searching for them. So with that, please, let's take a moment of silence to pray, think, and just give peace to their families right now. Mahalo. With that, let us recognize HFD to provide their monthly report. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Sean Ray. I'm a fire captain at the Station 36 Mililani, and I will be presenting the statistics for January of this year. First of all, for fires, we had 6 structure fires, 6 wildland brush fires, 4 nuisance fires, and that includes rubbish fires outside of structure, and 2 activated alarms without a fire. Emergencies, we had 83 medicals and 1 motor vehicle collision with a pedestrian and 8 motor vehicle crash collisions. And I will read the fire safety tip for this month: appliance and electrical safety. Minimize electrical fire risks in your home with these safety tips. Electrical work should only be performed by a qualified electrician. Check your electrical cords. If they are cracked or damaged, replace them. Do not overload wall or outlets. Do not overload wall outlets or power strips. And use certified power strips that meet safety standards. Extension cords should not be used long-term. They are designed for temporary use only. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for all appliances. And for more information, safety tips, and checklists, visit fire.honolulu.gov.
Members of the board, members of the public, are there any questions for HFD? Yes, Leslie.
I wanted to ask, what was the stats on the fireworks causing fires? As you know, fireworks has been a big issue.
Right.
With pretty much the deaths of those people that got killed. And it's something I've been talking about for a long time. In fact, I'm going to talk to the police about it too. But did you get any kind of fires from illegal fireworks that are going on in Mililani?
Yes, there was a number of them. The exact number of incidents I cannot say, but are you referring to the Salt Lake one or just specifically around the Mililani area?
Mostly around our district, but not that I don't care about any
No, I
other
understand what
district.
you're saying, yeah.
I'm thinking that we should implement a plan. I said this a long time ago. We might need the FBI. We might need to find out who's bringing this illegal fireworks into our state. But I just wanted to find out what district you had problems with illegal fireworks.
Yes, there was plenty. In fact, I was on duty that night, and we had, this area wasn't too bad. We had one of the fires, the brush fires that I referred to, was in the Noholo Park area. But other than that, it was actually pretty quiet for this area.
Yeah, the reason why I'm bringing it up is my parents' house. There was an illegal rocket that shot off, and there's a post that goes into the ground, and the post came falling, and it damaged the screen and almost broke their window. And I took pictures of it, and I have the sticks, but I was going to try and submit it with the police and make a report. And there's tags on it too. I think it's from China. So I'm thinking that we're going to have to move forward in this. But thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, members of the audience. Are there any further questions for Honolulu Fire Department at this time? Seeing and hearing none, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Next up, HPD. Welcome. Hope it's a quiet one tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Scott Vieira. I'm out of the Wahiwa Police Station, which covers the Mililani, Wahiwa, and the North Shore. I'm the Night Watch Commander, which covers 6 p.m. to 7:30 in the morning. The stats for this past month for Mililani, Waipio, Melamanu, there were, 2 assaults. There were no robberies. There was 1 burglary. And there were 2 UEMVs, or unlawful entry into motor vehicles. Basically, when someone breaks into your car. Total calls for service was 696. I'll go ahead with the safety tip. You know, with the new year coming around, a lot of people have New Year's resolutions. More people are exercising. So I just wanted to provide some simple tips on pedestrian safety. Some of them are obvious, but I think they're worth repeating. If you're going to go walk outdoors during the evening hours or early morning hours when it's dark, you have to be visible. So if you have those reflectors, a lot of our shoes have reflectors or blinking lights, that helps. If not, wear light colored clothing, not dark colored clothing. Headphones and earbuds, a lot of people, you like to use those when they're working out. They're fine, I use them. But if you're walking outdoors and you have your AirPods or headphones on, you're pretty much giving up your whole sense of hearing to your surroundings, and it poses obvious, so just be mindful of that if you have them. When you're crossing, try to make contact with the drivers. When you're crossing at a crosswalk or mid-block, if someone stops for you or you think they stop for you, try to make eye contact, make sure they see you and wave you. A lot of times people are stopping for a car, the drivers, you think it's them and they end up just going, not seeing the pedestrians. And lastly is crosswalks. Crosswalks are awesome. You know, that's where most people cross. But a lot of people have a false sense of security. I see people often just waiting there. The light turns, they got the white hand and they just walk. A crosswalk is a safer area to cross, but there's no shield that protects you from getting injured. So just, you might be crossing and you're in the right, but if you get injured, it does, you no good. So that's all I have as far as safety.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions for HPD?
Okay.
Member Spurgeon, followed by Member Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Can you speak more specific which neighborhoods in Mililani are affected most by those break-in to cars?
So it's kind of hard. The UEMVs, unfortunately, you know, most of those are like crimes of opportunity. And I don't offhand, I used to be, prior to going on patrol, I used to be in the zone, which handled all of the code cases. And there's no specific neighborhood in Mililani that's always getting hits. Like I said, it comes in spurts, and you might have some people from out of district, they'll drive through like 16 acres. I know there was one time where 8 cars got hit in one night. And then for a couple of weeks, there was nothing. So obviously we're places where, I will say this, like the townhouses, a lot of times they have parking a little farther from the homes. Some of the criminals like to target those areas. So make sure you lock your cars. But as far as a specific area in Mililani or the Waipio area, I don't know one that's always getting hit just chronically.
Member Lee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Lieutenant, for being here. I hate to really bring up the subject of fireworks again, but last night about 6:15, and that's your shift, I was walking my dog up Ikaloa Street, and an aerial was shot off. And then I thought that was the only one because my dog bolted, and he would have run across the street if I hadn't held him. But then there were 2 more. I did call and report it. I think it was coming from Mililani Waina Park, but you know, it's still a problem. This is okay. All right. This is the middle of January, so I think the New Year's celebration is over. And so I just want to let you know. And I do have a question, wondering if you have any big ideas about what can be done.
Okay. So yeah, first of all, you know, like I'd like to actually almost apologize on fireworks. We see it actually starts even anyway, even in my neighborhood from pretty much Thanksgiving to like 3-4 weeks after New Year's, and even like last night, you hear them. I was working last night. I did hear a call. There was another call at like 3:45 in the morning by the pedestrian overpass. We actually sent some officers. So it is a problem. I know in the legislative session this year, they're trying to make stricter penalties. And it's going to take more effort than just the police. And the problem, and I'm not making excuses. I know we see them going up. We look in the area. The problem, the challenge I say we have is we have to find out who lit the firework and set it off. And that poses a challenge for us. And that's why I think in some of the news releases earlier, they asked the public, if you guys see it, now they even, you know, are willing to accept videotape of video recordings of someone if you're willing to give a statement. So that's something that we asked the public to help. But as far as, yeah, any specific, you know, like I said, every New Year's, we ask the patrol officers make more patrols. But the challenge that we face is actually finding who's setting them off and having neighbors willing to write a statement and implicate their neighbors.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, please make it quick, Leslie.
Okay, yeah, I brought this up, I guess, with the fire department, but I have evidence of posted.
Member to pose it as a
Go.
question. Pose it as a question.
So I want to find out what sub-districts have you been hearing? Because I think I know the sub-districts where this guy is blowing fireworks. I want to compare your stats with what I have. And this is something everybody knows on this board I've been pushing for the last couple of years, you know, and passing laws is not going to stop it. They keep bringing it into our state, and we might have to check shipping. We might have to have undercover and FBI or whatever. But passing a law is not going to stop this. It's already against the law, and they're blowing illegal fireworks. To me, it's an act of terrorism, and we can't put up with it anymore. We have to take a strong action. But what sub-districts do you hear off the, in Mililani?
To be honest, during the holiday season, it's pretty much rampant throughout the district, not only in Mililani, on the North Shore. And like I said, just as recent as last night, we had at least 3 calls of they call them 106 violations. One of them was where she was referring to, and there was 2 at the pedestrian overpass. So it's slowing down, but still, it's not, I have dogs. I deal with the same pain we all deal with when the fireworks goes off. They're getting louder, scarier. I'm sorry, I don't know as far as stats, what sub-districts are more active than the others. I know it's a problem, and I totally agree with you. We're definitely one big picture of the enforcement side, but it has to start with them coming in and, the fireworks getting here. We need a little more prongs to address the problem.
All right. Thank you for your report. I hope it's a quiet night for the rest of your
Thank
shift
you.
at least.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next up, Captain. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Captain Block from 25th Combat Aviation Brigade, and I'm here representing U.S. Army at both Schofield Barracks as well as Wheeler Army Airfield, where I work. So we've got the February job fair coming up. U.S. Army Garrison is holding its next hiring fair on February 18th at Helemano Military Reservation Training Room, beginning at 08:30 a.m. and ending at 2 p.m. This is open to the public. There will be job offers and provisional hiring on the day of the job fair. Advanced applicants may go to www.himwr.com, click on the employment banner to learn of openings and how to apply online. Walk-ins are welcome, and you should bring 2 references, proof of ID, social security card, resume, or your filled out application. There's opportunities in business operations such as golf, bowling, food service, and many more. The Child and Youth Services, or CYF, will also have openings to consider. And for those who work in CYS, there includes a variety of benefits such as retirement, access to all military recreation facilities, discounted childcare, training, and commissary/PX privileges. If you're interested in working with children, we have a position for you. Come on out and see what's available as far as employment opportunities that await. The training advisory, which as usual is pretty stale by now, but we have aviation training 27 to 30 January. Small arms fire expected at the East Range training area in Wahiwa, 27 to 31 January. And Schofield Barracks artillery and mortar training, 21 to 31 January. And there's going to be demolitions training 24 to 25 January, day and evening hours. Then finally, we have a full-scale exercise going on at Kole Kole Pass. As part of U.S. Army Garrison's ongoing effort to partner with Hawaii's state and county emergency management officials, we'll conduct a full-scale exercise along Farrington Highway through the Lualuele Naval Magazine, Kole Kole Pass, and Schofield Barracks. The exercise will take place on February 5th. We'll focus on utilizing Kole Kole Pass during an emergency event, such as a natural or man-made disaster. The U.S. Navy, Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the City and County of Honolulu Fire Department of Emergency Management, Honolulu Police Department, Honolulu Fire Department, and Honolulu Department of Transportation will all participate in this exercise. This exercise will last only 1 day and is not expected to have any effect on traffic. For any concerns, please call our new community concern line with U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii at 808-787-1528. You may also email your concerns to usag hawaii.comrel@army.mil. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
All right, members of the audience, members of the board, are there any questions for United States Army Hawaii Garrison? Oh, Member Ross, go ahead.
Aloha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Aloha again. Aloha, Captain. I would ask that the area that got cleaned up, great, but it seems as if I've seen 3 different tents now set up within the Army area. That's just west of Kamehameha Highway, just before Waipio Gentry and just after Mililani. There's 2 white tents and 1 blue tent in your area on your property, in the same area that we did have fire last year. And I don't know how, I know that you guys are keeping it secret on how you guys do your patrols and when you guys do your patrols, but if I could ask that maybe you link up with board member Darsha Lee. She had a good way of communicating with the homeless individuals societies that are out there, and she kind of set up a program with them. And I think maybe it's time for you guys to do it once again, because I think they're back over there. Like I said, there's 2 white tents and 1 blue tent that I see when I drive through Kamehameha. Plus, there are carts and motorcycles parked on the side again in that area. So I would
I'll
ask.
look into it. I'll reach out to Garrison and get you an answer on that.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions for United States Army at this time? Right, seeing and hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Kathleen Pahinui, who's online, I believe, from Board of Water Supply. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Kathleen.
mahalo, Chair. Appreciate it. Mahalo, Board. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm happy to report there were no main breaks in your community during the holiday season. And I did want to take a few minutes. I did get some questions from community members about the landfill. Some of you may have been at that meeting in Wahiwa last week that was held by Councilmember Wire and Representative Amy Peruso. The Board of Water Supply does have information on its website at boardofwatersupply.com. ENV also has information on their website, so I would encourage everyone to read the information and get educated on the issue, because it is an issue that will affect everybody on this island. It's not just, North Shore or Wahiwa. It's really all of us will be affected by this issue. And it's, not just where our next landfill goes, but it's also how do we handle our Opala for the long term. We need to look at a number of things, and I know EMV is also looking at new and various ways to handle this issue. So are there any questions? I don't want to take up too much of your time. Any questions regarding either the landfill quickly or any other Board of Water Supply issue? Thank you.
Members of the board, members of the public, are there any questions for the Honolulu Board of Water Supply at this time? Please raise your hand. Oh, Marilyn, go ahead.
Thank you for coming, as usual. Thank you for the information about where we can find out more about the landfill issue. And I see that we have a council person here tonight who will probably maybe talk about it, and also someone from the city and county. I just wanted to just say that I think in Mililani, we are really hypersensitive to the issue of water and water pollution because of our history in the past. And so I hope that we'll get as much information as possible so we can stop worrying about the purity of our water. I know Mr. Lau has spoken up a number of times, and he doesn't seem very happy about the location at Wahiwa. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Lee.
Members, are there any other questions for Honolulu Board of Water Supply? Yes, please approach the mic, state your name and direct your question or comment to H or BWS.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon Kennard, and I was at the Wahiwa landfill discussion, and there was a point that Ernie Lau had brought up that the period to challenge his disapproval of the site was coming up, I believe. So I wanted to follow up to see if somebody had actually reached out to him to challenge his recommendation against the landfill site. I don't know if you know, or if one of the two members here know.
I believe Mr. Lau is in discussion with the city. I believe Director Babcock is there tonight, but I believe they're in discussions, but we haven't received anything formally.
Well, this is the Board of Water Supplies presentation. Is there a piece of clarity you'd like to make? I mean, it's not your presentation. Okay. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, good evening, Roger Babcock, Director of Department of Environmental Services for the city. So the questions about the landfill and the interactions with Board of Water Supply about the site. So Environmental Services did not file an appeal with the Board of Water Supply. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Board of Water Supply at this time? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing and hearing none. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Mahalo. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right, members, you'll notice that I've added to the monthly reports a report from the School Facilities Authority. So this will be a regular update as opposed to longer presentations. So we're going to see Sherry Nakamura from SFA on a regular monthly basis from now on. So please, welcome back.
Right. Aloha and Happy New Year. My name is Sherry Nakamura and I'm the Community Liaison for the School Facilities Authority. Thank you for allowing me to come back with additional updates on the Mililani High School Teacher Workforce Housing Project. So I assume that people are familiar with the project. If so, I'm going to skip down and not go back to the background and start with in August of 2024, the project was awarded to Pacific Housing Assistance Corporation. In their preliminary proposal, Pacific Housing identified a potential site for the teacher workforce housing. The site was located on the upper campus of Mililani High School on the corner of Ho'okelewa'a Street and Mehe'ula Parkway. In October and November of last year, we attended neighborhood board meetings, conducted several community meetings, where the community shared valuable feedback regarding their many concerns about Site A. And I think you have, it's shown up on the screen and you have a pictorial of where Site A is. On November 27th, this neighborhood board passed a resolution supporting the teacher housing project and recommending a relocation of the project to Site B. We thank this board for providing this feedback. At community meetings in December, we floated the idea of moving the project to an alternative site, Site B, to a location on the lower campus. This generally received positive responses. We still want to give the community opportunity to respond to this alternative location. So we invite you to share your thoughts through our website, and we have a QR code taking you to the website. We have a section for community feedback, and we will keep this open until February 7th. After February 7th, we will review and evaluate all feedback and make a decision in late February to enable us to move forward with additional due diligence and to move on to the design phase. There are many more steps before we can start construction, including environmental assessments and development agreements. To give you a sense of timing, if everything goes smoothly, we estimate the start of construction to be in 2027. Our plan is to continue to update the community here at the neighborhood board meeting and the Mililani High School School Community Council and on our website. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Mahalo, Sherry. Members of the board, members of the audience, are there any questions for the State School Facilities Authority? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next month. All right, we're going to move on to filling a vacancy. Members, I received word that we have a vacancy, right, Rachel, for Subdistrict 1. Care to explain? Yeah, the vacancy as well as the general area.
So we had Ashley Trotter that was on the board, and she sent in her resignation. So that's why we have a Subdistrict 1 vacancy.
Thank you, Rachel. And at this point, are there any members of the Mililani community who would like to fill the Subdistrict 1 vacancy? Please raise your hand. Kato Zawa. Okay, are there any other members, Mililani community members who'd like to fill this vacancy? Yes, it's a sub-district. So Rachel, could you explain the Subdistrict 1 area?
I'll actually have to look it up, but what it means is that if you wanted to sign up for that vacancy, I'll have to check your ID just to make sure that you fit in that sub-district. So before we nominate anybody, I would like to have them present their IDs first, so we don't.
Okay, so you're interested, I'm assuming, as well? Okay, that's fine. So what I'd like to do for the expediency and efficiency of this meeting is I would like to put this after presentations, right? You two can go give your IDs to Rachel to get your mailing addresses or residential addresses validated if it's in Subdistrict 1, and then we can come back to that following the 2 presentations, okay? All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to defer that matter and come back to it later on this agenda. Next up, we're going to go into presentations. Members, I'd like to welcome the Hawaii Kickstart Soccer League. Justin Bajota here, who's going to be making a quick presentation regarding his request for parking along Lanikohana Avenue nearby Kealohi Neighborhood Park. That's over in the Maka PPP area. Welcome, folks from the Kickstart community. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Fahota. I'm the founder for Hawaii Kickstart Soccer. And we are a community soccer program or league for youth ages 4 to 8 around the Mililani community. And our practice field currently is at the Kealohi Park, located by Rec 4. And currently, our families all park along Maka, sorry, can you? Maka PPP, 3 PPs, yeah. PPP Street, on the residential side of the park. And the Lanikuhana side, or Lanikuhana Avenue, allows for parking on the weekends and holidays.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah, sorry, so we can reference. Is there a map? So that's a small map of the park. So on the bottom part of the map, you'll see the Maka PPP Street, and that's where our families currently park. And on the opposite side of the park is Lanikuhana Avenue, which allows for parking on weekends and holidays only currently. So we're asking to see if we can allow for parking on weekday afternoons from 3 to 7 p.m. so our families can park. Sorry. So the families can park along Lanikuhana Avenue just for practices. On the left-hand side, the image there, you see Maka PPP Street. When families are parking on both sides of the street, only one car can get through at a time. So it makes it very very crowded for residents trying to get home from work, back to their homes. So we're asking to see if we can park on the opposite side of Kealohi Park, where there are 2 lanes currently, and very, very light traffic. No more than a few cars a minute passing by in the afternoons on weekdays. Let's see. So far we haven't had any complaints from neighbors or any citations from the HPD, and we would like to just be neighborly to the residents around the area to alleviate some of the traffic and potential noise. So the City Department, Parks and Recs, the DPR, and Department of Transportation Services, the DTS, are willing to support this request with the backing of Neighborhood Board. And I think that was it. Yeah, so the request is basically asking to park along Lani Kuhana Avenue just during the weekday afternoons when we host practices.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
No, no, that was great. And I love the energy in the room. Thank you. For those online, we have a lot of little soccer players, enjoying the open space. Okay, so Justin, we might have some questions. So are there any members of the board, members of the audience who have any questions for Justin here regarding this request? Emil.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So how many cars are we talking about? I mean,
So-
I'm gonna just park around the
Sure,
park.
sure. So currently we have, on practice days, we have 2 sessions for families. There's 150 players registered in the league, and we practice throughout the course of 3 days during the week. So an average of about 50 families per day, coming and going between 4 and 6:30. So currently, that whole Makapipi Street is full. Along Rec 4 is kind of the overflow where a lot of the families have to walk to get to practice. So we're even taking up potential parking from the rec center patrons, parking along that strip as well. Yeah.
Okay,
So about 50 families.
I see questions from Sabrina, board member Sabrina Gustafson online. Go ahead, Sabrina, followed by board member Josie Ka'anehe.
Yes, I have 2 questions. My first is, you state that there's very little traffic in the area. Have you done any traffic studies, or has DOT done any traffic studies of the area to see how many vehicles are going through the area at that point in time? And my second question is, what is your season like? What months are you guys actually holding practice during the week? When are you off season? How many months of the year do you feel that you need this parking?
Okay, to answer your first question, ever since I put in the requests of, being able to park along that Lani Kuhana, there's an average of maybe 1 or 2 cars every minute. And that's between 4 and 7 p.m. going back towards Kamehameha Highway. So going the opposite way on the opposite side of the street, there's a few more cars that do pass on Lani Kuhana Avenue to go home. But going from, too sure that Meheula to Kamehameha Highway on Lani Kuhana Avenue, very, very light traffic. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, Sabrina, I know you have a couple questions, but just restate that for clarity so everyone can kind of figure that out. And so, Rachel, can you pull up the map so that we all know what we're talking about in Justin's presentation? So Kealohi Park is next to Rec 4, right? And there's the Lani Kuhana right next to it. And what Justin is saying was from Cam Highway side up towards Waianae was how many cars per minute you counted? From
So
7?
So on the map, if you reference the map on the PowerPoint slide, if
Yeah.
you go left to right on Lani Kuhana Avenue, west to east, right? Towards up towards Kamehameha Highway. 1 to 2 cars a minute on average. If you go from right to left, coming from Kamehameha Highway back towards to the left, there's a few more cars, but still very little.
And then you guys are trying to park mainly along
Going,
the
yeah,
park,
along the park side. Yeah.
which would be the traffic flow that would be bothered.
From-
There's 2 lanes and it's from
the right.
Malka to Cam Highway.
Correct. Yeah.
Sorry, Malka in terms of mountain. I'm using that as
Yes,
a reference,
correct,
not
correct.
to confuse with Mililani Malka.
Correct.
Okay, Sabrina, did that address your 2 questions?
No.
No.
I think the second question was the seasons. So our seasons run 8 weeks. So we do practices for the children once a week during the weekday, and then we play games on Saturday, half day from 8 to 1, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays, and that's a 8-week season. We do 3 to 4 seasons per year. So what is that? 24 to 32 weeks out of the calendar year.
Okay, Josie, you have a question online.
Yes, thank you. My question is, are you the only one practicing? Because I remember AYSO used to utilize that place. Also, I've raised my kids here on soccer, and utilizing that area for parking, I don't think would be a problem at all for the community to utilize Lani Kohana instead of being within the neighborhood, as he stated. Thank you. I want to know if you're the only one there, or is AYSO still there, or are you going to be sharing it with their teams?
Well, currently on the weekday afternoons, we make use of the park Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. I'm not aware of, anybody else practicing on Monday or Friday. So currently just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So, but total servicing, 150 families throughout those 3 days, and over 95% of them live in, the community.
Okay. See, Board Member Smart has a question. Go for it.
About how many cars do you estimate can fit in that area that you're asking?
So along Lani Kohana, a good guesstimate would be about 25 to 30 at least cars, yeah, along that. Yeah, more than that, possibly. Yeah.
Check the size, it's probably like 1,000 feet.
Mhm.
So we're talking over 50.
Yeah,
Probably. If car is 15 feet,
sure,
it could
sure.
be about 50. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And on, just a note, on game days, on Saturdays, we know that parking is legal, and that is our first priority in our emails to families to park on that side, so that we minimize the noise, especially, around the 8 o'clock hour for residents. Yeah.
Okay, I see that Board Member Dennis Kim has a question online, followed by Board Member Among. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, I live in that area and I drive by and jog through close by on the park, along the park. And I agree that area, it's a 2-lane road heading toward Camp Highway. And I've never seen 2 cars on the same area in that double lane. And so I really would support that for the kids and for the program. And just give you my input on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie.
I think having the league is a good idea. We need to also see if any other leagues are using the park, have scheduled events going on to see if there'll be enough parking for everybody. If there's 2 other leagues with you guys, everybody's fighting for parking or whatever,
So
anyway,
so
yeah.
how the city and county permits out the fields? They permit, especially for that, because of the smaller size of the park, they only permit to one, team or league or club per, designated time slot or day. So that there wouldn't be crossover of like two or three other teams making use of the park because we have permits and, yeah, so.
Yes.
Some people try to copy some parking in the hiding and making believe
Thank
they're
you.
with you guys, you know? But anyway.
Thank
okay,
you.
thanks.
Yes, you're fully permitted with the city parks department. Okay, any final questions for Justin? Yes, Mary.
Okay, in the resolution, I see that hours are limited. So would the signs that go up have that limited hour
I can
posted?
answer that. I'll answer that. Are there any other or further questions for Justin at this time? Online, in person? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Justin. I think that completes your presentation to answer Mary's question. And for the members and the public's, awareness, we do have a resolution to address Justin's request. I believe Transportation Chair Ross will be introducing that. Mary, yes, it will be limited to those times. I will share also to help answer your question. I've been in personal contact with the City Parks Department, with the City Transportation Services Department. They're both in support of this. They both recommended 3 to 7 p.m. on weekdays. They have no problems, especially transportation services. They see that there's no real traffic concern since there are 2 lanes and it's just strictly for those 4 hours in the afternoon. Just to share, I think that this is a very nice gesture that Justin and his league and parents are doing. As we all know, in Mililani, there are many sports enthusiasts who just park on Lani Kohana, nearby District Park, nearby Mililani Uka. And so I think in this case, the Hawaii Kickstart Soccer League, they're asking permission rather than forgiveness. And I think we should actually support that. But, this is all in compliance with DPR and DTS. But I'll leave the rest of the defense of the resolution to Member Ross at that time on the agenda. Thank you, Justin. We're going to move on to Director Roger Babcock to make from the Department of Environmental Services to make a presentation on the Honolulu Sewer service fee increase for residential and commercial customers. Following that presentation, we will go into the filling of the vacancy, community concerns, approval of minutes, and then we'll circle back to the resolution that we just discussed. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, Director Babcock.
Yeah, so thanks. Good evening, Chair Bass and board members, and the public, and especially the little soccer players, I guess. I'm Roger Babcock, Director of the Department of Environmental Services. So thanks for having me tonight. There's a couple handouts that are coming around. There's a flyer that it talks about our sewer fee increases that we've proposed to the City Council, as well as some example sewer bills. So there's two flyers coming around. These flyers and all this information is available on our website, honolulu.gov/ENV. ENV's Environmental Services. And this and a bunch of other information is available on this topic, as well as information about the landfill. But tonight we're talking about sewer fees. And environmental services, we take care of 2 important city functions, wastewater and solid waste. And on the wastewater side, this is for the sewer system. The sewer system consists of 2,100 miles of sewer pipes, 71 wastewater pump stations, and 9 wastewater treatment plants around the island. The Mililani area, and I'm a Mililani resident also, by the way, and I have 3 kids who all graduated from this school we're standing in here tonight. But our wastewater goes to our wastewater treatment plant in Ewa Beach called Honouliuli Wastewater Treatment Plant. It's the 2nd largest treatment plant in the county. So, but the sewer operation is a fee for service operation, just like Board of Water Supply. So we pay a fee for this service. In other words, it's not paid for out of our property tax, which pays for essentially every other function that the city provides, including first responders and parks and everything else. So for the fee for service operations, the fee structure needs to be equivalent to the revenue requirements to run the operations. And so periodically, we have to do a fee study and determine adjustments that are needed to our sewer fees to be able to continue to provide the service that we provide. So those are basically the services that we provide. It takes, for the sewer operations, it takes almost 800 at work. The sewer fees are used for a bunch of different things. To run the system, we provide safe and reliable sewer service. We do a series of functions, including maintaining our gravity sewer system, the wastewater pump stations. We have to rehabilitate, reconstruct, and replace these things. We have force mains. Those are pipes that are under pressure. We have the treatment plants that require upgrades and expansions and addition for removal of new contaminants and stuff in our permits. And we also have to manage our program and do all kinds of planning. And then the other big thing that we have is we have something called a consent decree, which was a federal court settlement that the city entered into in 2010. It has a 25-year duration from 2010 through 2035. And we're more than halfway through finishing the consent decree. And it is important, so I'll just say a little bit more about it. The consent decree was something that was put in place. It was a settlement, essentially. There's between the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. EPA, State Department of Health, and several nonprofit litigants. It settled several lawsuits, many years of violations, and cleared the deck for the city in agreement to do a bunch of projects. So the first 10 years was projects related to prevent sewer system overflows. And so this was first 10 years, there was 145 projects. The city completed those on time and on budget. The second phase was to upgrade the Honolulu treatment plant, which is our treatment plant for Mililani contributes to. That needed to be done by 2014. So that was given 14 years. That project was completed in this past June on time. And so that part of the consent decree is completed. The final part, the third part, is to upgrade the Sand Island wastewater treatment plant, which is located on Sand Island across from Matson and the other shipping companies. That project is an upgrade, which is broken up into two phases. The first phase is under construction now. It's about 65% complete. Second phase needs to start construction in 2029. Be awarded in 28, start in 29 in order to finish the construction by December 31st of 2035. So that's one of our big projects that we have to complete. And it's a unique project because it has a specific deadline when penalties start to accrue if it's not completed by December 31st. So on January 1st of 2036, we will, if we don't finish, start to accrue lots of fines. So in consideration of our operating costs and our construction costs, we need to increase the fees. I can say more about those if you have questions about the different projects and stuff. But what we are need to have is 9% increases in each of the next 6 years, and then there's 4 more years. We're proposing a 10-year package. Then it goes 8, 7, 6, and 5% in the years 7 through 10. So what that looks like, there's a table in the handout. You can see what a sewer bill would look like for a water user that uses 9,000 gallons a month of drinking water. So it shows you some sample bills there. Before I go into what other sample bills would look like, I just want to mention that there's 2 things that we're doing that we're changing based on input that we got. Oh, thank you. There's flyers up there on the screen. We wanted to, based on input from the public, we wanted to change our sewer fee structure. So the sewer fee, as you know, everybody that gets a sewer bill, it's itemized on your bill. There's a base charge, and then there's a volumetric charge. And the base charge is the same every month, depending on the type of use, whether residential or non-residential, single family or multifamily. That charge doesn't change every month. And for a single family residential, that's $77.55. Then there's a volumetric charge, which is for every 1,000 gallons of water that you use, minus a 20% discount for irrigation. You pay $4.63 for every 1,000 gallons. So so most of the bill then, about 75% of the bill is the fixed charge, the base charge. And so it was suggested and we wanted to realign that so that it's about 50-50. So only about 50% of the bill would be a fixed charge. And this benefits people especially and incentivizes water conservation. So your basic bill will be smaller percentage of your total bill. And there's a greater percentage to be volumetric, which means saving water, saving volume saves you more money than it currently does. So that's what we're proposing is to go to a 50-50 fee structure over the first 4 years. The other thing that we're doing is we're adding a customer assistance program for folks who qualify that have economic challenges. This is modeled after our rental and utility relief program that the city's been running since COVID. And it basically is based on 80% AMI or lower household income would qualify for a $20 to $25 per month reduction in the base charge. So that's the basic, some of the basic information. The other handout that I gave you is a big table with blue boxes and different colors on there. And that is, it says comparing sewer bills for single family residential. And what it shows is the leftmost column, it shows that's the year. And across the top, it shows the thousands of gallons of water use per month. And so the numbers that are across the top, for example, says 6,000. So 6,000 gallons is the median water use. Median means 50% people use that much or less, and 50% use more than that. The number that's highlighted there, 9,000, is where 70% of people use that amount or less, and 30% use more. So it kind of gives you a proportion of the population of the single family. And so you can kind of see, it depends on how much water you use on how much your bill is going to go up. The other thing to point out is the fixed rate. So I talked about the fixed rate or the base rate. It's currently, as it shows there in 2024, $77.55. That's going to increase, but for the first 4 years, it doesn't really increase. It actually goes down a little bit. But so in 2028, it'll still be only $74.74. Then it starts to go up more after that. But what goes up during those first 4 years is the volumetric rate. So it goes up from $4.63 to $6.14, then $7.89, et cetera. And you can kind of see how that number continues to increase. And as the volumetric rate charge goes up, that incentivizes water conservation and gives you more, essentially, benefit from saving water. One last thing I wanted to point out, and I'd be happy to take questions, is that the fixed rate and the volumetric rate that's there have been in place since July 1st of 2016. So there hasn't been a sewer fee increase for a while. And we've been, the city has been very diligent and working very economically, but unfortunately, going forward with all the projects that we have, we need to increase the rates at this time in order to keep up with all of our expenses. So there's more things I could say, but I know there's kind of a limit of time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Roger. I introduce you as a Mililani resident, but I figured you're making life a little more expensive for all of us. So I decided it was a matter of your public safety not to disclose that. But no, thank you for sharing this presentation. Speaking of sewers, I'm going to hand it over to Vice Chair, but I just want to remind folks to raise their hands, and Vice Chair will recognize you while I step out.
Okay, so Emil, followed by Mary.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So how much money are you planning to generate with this increase? Because, we can probably figure out some different ways to deal with the wastewater. Like, what about private sewer system or private septics? Would that be something the city would consider, because it costs probably $30,000 to build? I don't know what permitting would have to be applied, but that would cost us probably $9 billion if I put the septic in every household on Oahu, but how much money are you planning to generate? How much money are you missing in your budget?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So it's about the budget. So the currently sewer fees, again, there's residential, non-residential. There's 140,000 residential customers, 9,000 non-residential, which is all businesses and restaurants and hotels and everything else you can imagine. The total sewer fee revenue currently is about $450 million per year. And our expenses are about $450 million per year, but they're increasing. 9% is about $40 million of increased revenue in each of the first several years. And then it gets a little bit smaller in the out years. So so that's kind of the additional revenue. The question about on-site systems is interesting. There are quite a few people that are not connected to the sewer that have on-site systems, mostly cesspools. Statewide, it's a big issue. There's 88,000 on this island. There's about 8,000 cesspools still. Most of them are on the North Shore between Laie and Haleiwa, but there's other ones in other places, quite a few. The city, we only service folks that are connected to us, connected to the sewer. And by ordinance, if a sewer is available in the street, you're required to be connected to the sewer. You cannot have an on-site system. So that's an ordinance, but also the on-site systems are regulated by the Department of Health. So that's a state agency. And so if you were to apply for an on-site system in a sewered area, you would not be able to get a permit. So it's just not possible to convert from sewered to unsewered. We do have projects in our CIP program over the next 6 years to install sewers to sewer several neighborhoods, a little less than 20, that would connect about 3,000 of the 8,000 currently unsewered homes. The remainder are either future projects or they would not receive sewers, at least in any time that we're planning and any planning horizon we have. So some folks are going to have their own on-site systems, and they will continue to be regulated by the Department of Health.
Okay. So we also here we're going to have stormwater price increases. Do you work with that organization as well? And this is quite an increase when we get hit from all sides at once. I'm against all these, but okay. How are they different? And one other thing, we have horrible inflation right now, and somebody in charge says he's going to bring it down. Is there a chance if inflation goes down that your prices might go down?
Yeah, thanks. Those are good questions. So the first question is about the stormwater utility, a stormwater fee. So I was associated with that. It's a different department, facility maintenance. They take care of the stormwater system and the roads and buildings and lots of other things, Department of Facility Maintenance. The proposal for the stormwater fee is still kind of still in development. It has not been proposed yet as for funding and to exist, but they're still working on it. And so, yeah, I guess I can't say too much else about that, but it could come out, sometime in the future. The inflation, yes, inflation. So we have counted inflation in these sewer fees, and there's a 3% per year assumption. So 3% of those numbers that I mentioned is inflation. And so it is definitely possible that if revenues exceed projections and inflation goes down and or projects cost less, that there could be adjustments. And that is certainly true, especially since we've proposed such a long package of 10 years. And I didn't really mention why the 10 years, but you might have caught it that to finish the consent decree is 10 more years through 2035. This gets us to 2035 without having to do any more increases and finish this really big project, which overall is about $6 billion for the whole thing, that settlement. And so we need to finish this last piece, and then we can be done with that. It reset the table, cleared all the decks of all the lawsuits and everything and violations that had happened at that time. So that's why we're seeking the 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, it's just double checking. Is there anyone online who had any questions for Director Babcock? Okay, Leslie.
Could you share with us some of those other possibilities that would bring down the cost? It just seems like the senior citizens are going to be slammed with this increase. It's during a time where nobody can really afford this kind of increases. You know, it's forcing people out of it from all sides. Like Mary said, all these increases. It's not possible. In 1934, my granddaughter, she'll be older. She won't be able to afford this. This is, I mean, there's got to be other alternatives. But could you share some of that with us? If not today, maybe somewhere at the next future meetings, you can bring back some other alternatives about saving money instead of raising costs on the seniors and the residents of Hawaii that already have enough to spend on. The state is expensive, man. It's driving people out. It's breaking up families, man. I mean, so please let us know what other alternatives you would have.
Sure. So the question is of course about affordability of the of everything that we do, as a city and as a state, and revenues, to run the operations of the city come from a combination of property tax, which runs a lot of things, and then other fee-based services. And, there are services that we need to provide that everyone benefits from. And, our commitment to you is that when you flush your toilet, it's not going to back up. It's going to go somewhere. And then a lot of stuff happens. We got a lot of systems to operate. We got a whole bunch of people. We have a lot of very strict regulations to meet. We do recycle some of the water, so it gets reused. And it does cost money for those services. Same as refuse service. Refuse service seems like it's free, right? Because it's coming out of your property tax. But if we sent you a bill every month, it'd be about $75. That's what you're actually paying for that service to happen. So services do cost money. There are costs increase for the work that we do, just like the rest of your costs do. So I have a $25 million a year HECO bill, for example, and that goes up. We buy a lot of diesel fuel because we have generators and we have vehicles and we have stuff like that. We have people, a lot of people that work for us. They're public workers. They have a union contract and they get 3-4% raises every year. And everything else that we consume also, sort of increases in cost. And in order to avoid future consent decrees or other punitive things from not meeting regulations and not maintaining our systems, we need to do the projects. So we know the projects and we know that we have to do them. And so in terms of doing the projects, there isn't an alternative. We have to do them. If we don't do them, we pay more later. So, well, it seems like we're having people in the future pay more. That's true. But they're paying more. We would pay more if we don't do the projects. So it gets worse. whenever you delay projects, they're more expensive, and you still have to do them. Again, it's highly regulated. And I can tell you, we have reporting and inspections and monitoring that we do. And we are sending reports. I'm sending official reports to EPA and Department of Health every month, about 10 of them, that I have to sign with a certification that says, under penalty of fine and imprisonment, I certify that everything here is correct and that we are meeting the requirements. I didn't know that when I took the job, actually. But so it is very serious, and it is it's very highly regulated, but it is an important service. I think I have a son that's in school in Texas, in Austin, and they had snow this week. And for several days now, they had no water and no sewer. And most of us don't know what that's like. But either one together is not good. But if you have neither, it's really a problem. It's very, very problematic to figure out what you're going to do. So, some of these services that we kind of take for granted are very expensive, and we do the best we can in terms of being very efficient. And we're not just throwing money away. We're providing a service very efficiently. Hope that answers your question.
Okay. Next, Skylar, did you have a question?
Hi, sorry. It took me a while to break down how you're getting your numbers and things like that. So my first question is, I have 3 of them, so I apologize for that already. So my first question is, on your flat rate fee, your fixed fee, for the next couple of years, you're decreasing it a couple cents to $1. And then magically in July of 2029, you're going to be shooting it up $6 to $7 every single year. I just want to know why July 2029 is such a big thing and why you're increasing it by so much versus decreasing it previously. My second question is, I'm not good with the average of what a person's going to be using. I'm looking at what I'm using, right? And you're going from $3.71 all the way to $14.92 per 1,000 gallons used in 2034. That is a significant increase from $3 to $14. So I just wanted to know, why. You explained some of the projects coming up and what are the mandatory things, but are you using this for other types of things? Which kind of leads into my third question of, everything is getting more expensive, everything is getting harder on every single individual. What is environmental services doing to, instead of meeting the minimum requirements, exceeding those requirements and showing that you guys are staying ahead of the curve and things like that? Good example is Board of Water always comes in here and says, yeah, the national standard is we need to have only this much of this specific thing in our water. We are going ahead of what we're supposed to do, and we're going down to half, maybe even a tenth of what we're supposed to, because we want to provide clean water for all of Hawaii. As the other side of this sewer side of Board of Water, are you guys using these funds to stay ahead, and are you guys using these funds to start new projects that will reduce the amount of prices that you have, not using diesel generators, switching to more eco or sustainable or cheaper cost generators, moving more towards providing solar panels on all your Board of Water supplies, so that way you guys are using your own separate electricity, so you're not paying your $11 million, I think is what you said, for your electricity bill to HECO. You guys are going ahead and staying ahead and trying to reduce these prices rather than staying at the bare minimum what it is and just passing all the costs on to the people.
Yeah, thank you for those questions. Those are great questions. I appreciate that. Let's see. The first question was about the fixed rate and why it stays constant and then starts to increase. And so that has to do with this shift from a 70-30 proportioning, 70% fixed and 30% variable to more of 50-50. So the way to do that is to increase the volumetric charge and hold steady the fixed charge. So the fixed charge, as you mentioned, in 2028 would be $74.74, but then the volumetric rate per gallon will have gone up to $12.21. So that means there's a greater proportion of the bill associated with the water you use. And that incentivizes water conservation. That's the same way that the Board of Water Supply bill is organized. It's an increasing rate block structure. So you pay more for more water use. Then it has to increase. But just so you know, overall, that combination of fixed rate and volumetric rate is increasing so that the total revenues will go up by 9% in each of those years. It's just how it's proportioned is what's changing. And that was to give people a greater control of their bill. In other words, the fixed rate is uncontrollable. The volumetric rate is controllable. There was a couple other questions, and I can't remember the middle one, but the third one was about staying ahead of regulations and also doing energy conservation efforts. So I'm proud to say that we are doing both of those things extensively. So our wastewater treatment plants need to stay treating well below what's the minimum requirement, putting out less pollution than what's required in order to stay ahead of the game, because the regulations continue to get stricter. So we need to make sure it's also good for the environment. With respect to energy production and stuff, we have multiple projects associated with that. So we have PV panels at our treatment plants, and we generate 3 megawatts, for example, at Honolulu. At Sand Island, we have panels going in that will generate another 3 megawatts. We have about 1.24 megawatts out at the Kailua plant. So we have lots of PV panels. We also generate, as part of wastewater treatment, you make methane. And so we take methane and you can either turn it into natural gas, and we have a partnership with Hawaii Gas Company to do that in Ewa Beach. And so they take all the gas and they pump it into their pipeline and they sell it to customers. What that does is it doesn't have to be made from petroleum, and they pay us, of course, for that gas. So we make a few $1 million a year from that. And so that's on the credit side of our income. The other thing is we are going to be making electricity out of some of the gas. First, that'll be in Ewa Beach. That's under construction now. And then it'll also be at Sand Island. So that's very important. It's very important to us to generate our own electricity, because any electricity that we make, we don't have to buy. And electricity keeps going up. So for the future, we'll be generating as much electricity as we can. We can't get to 100% because we need too much electricity, but we can use most of it. With respect to diesel fuel, we have to have backup generators to provide power during power outages at all of our pump stations and all of our wastewater treatment plants. Because usually here, when the power goes out, the water doesn't go out for at least a day or two because they're in reservoirs. And so water keeps coming, so you can still flush toilets and take showers. It doesn't matter if the electricity is out. So wastewater doesn't stop when there's a power outage. So water supply doesn't have backup power for most of their facilities, the wells, but we have to have them for all of our treatment plants and our pump stations so that your toilets won't back up. And so that means we have to have backup generators at all our facilities. And backup generators are usually powered by diesel. We are investigating battery backup power for our smaller pump stations. So we have a project right now to start with 3 of our pump stations, small ones, using PV panels and batteries, and we'll keep the generators there and the diesel until we prove that that is workable and foolproof, and then we'll continue to expand that, because I'd like to get rid of diesel fuel as well. Thank you.
Okay, Skylar, does that answer all your questions? Okay. Yeah. So Chair Bass.
Director, you were just mentioning the importance of volume in terms of these fees and costs that commercial and residential users are paying for. Can you actually explain that a little better, and how are there recommendations from ENV on how we can reduce volume as residential customers or commercial customers? I appreciate your hitting on the sustainability subject, right? That is very important, especially on our island, and acknowledging your hard work on renewable natural gases, especially with methane capture. But can you just hone in a little bit more on volume reduction, what that means?
Yeah, sure. So the amount, your water bill is based on the gallons of water that you use per month, right? So there's a water meter out in the sidewalk, and it's read remotely, and it determines how much water was used from the last time it was read. And then you're charged for every 1,000 of those gallons, you're charged something by Board of Water Supply. They also give that meter reading to ENV to calculate the volumetric portion of your bill. And 20% is assumed to be used for irrigation, so you only pay for 80% of the water that you purchase from Board of Water Supply is assumed to become sewage, and you're charged that as part of your sewer bill. Currently, only about 30% of your bill is based on the volumetric portion. So if you were to do water conservation and use less water, your water bill would go down accordingly, and so would your sewer bill. So saving water benefits both ways. This idea of making the volumetric charge a larger portion of your bill means that there's greater savings potential by saving water. So currently today, I have my water bill here, a recent one. I use 6,000 gallons a month, and the bill's $100.70. If I were to use 1,000 less gallons last month, my bill would have been $4.63 less, or still $95. In the future, every 1,000 gallons will cost you about $18. So it could reduce your bill. Using 1,000 less gallons of water a month would save you $18 instead of $4.60. So that's the idea about the incentivizing water conservation and giving you more control over your bill, because you do control how much water you use, and you can make choices.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other board members who have any questions? Anyone online has any questions? Okay. I actually have a question for you. So you mentioned that, like one of the things that's driving your costs is the need to comply with a consent decree with the EPA, DOH, and various other parties. And like on this handout you have, like you have a chart that shows that like you have like a very substantial CIP expense that's going to be coming up in 2028. And I believe you mentioned that this was to pay for upgrades to the Sand Island water treatment facility. Can you just talk a little bit about how the consent decree came about? Because if I recall correctly, this actually started like in 2006 during the 40 days of rain.
Yeah, so it actually goes back further than that. So there was an earlier consent decree associated with sanitary sewer overflows or sewer main breaks, and that had happened in the early 90s. And there was a consent decree in 1995 that was in effect at that time. And the city was having trouble complying with that 1995 consent decree. So they were in court with EPA about that. There were other violations and exceedances associated with Sand Island Treatment Plant, in particular, where there was enforcement actions. It's called an AOC, Administrative Order on Consent, and notice of violations. There were several things like that. And then there were lawsuits because the city, the EPA had not renewed the city's permits. The city originally in the 80s had gotten a waiver from secondary treatment, which is allowable under the Clean Water Act. But eventually the EPA denied the waivers continuance. And so the city didn't have an active permit for a number of years because of disputes. And so then there was legal action taken by by both government as well as several nonprofits, Hawaii Thousand Friends, Sierra Club, and others. And they, so there was active lawsuits against the city, lots of litigation. And so, and then in, you're right, in 2009 was the forced main break in Waikiki that required the city to divert, instead of having sewers overflow, diverted the water into the Alawai Canal. And that was after, the heavy rains you mentioned. So all those things combined together, there was negotiations for quite some time for the consent decree, but it then was signed in December of 2010. So the original thing about waivers and stuff and what the upgrades are is to upgrade the 2 large treatment plants to secondary treatment. At the time, they only had primary treatment, and they had only primary treatment at the time that the Clean Water Act was passed in 1972, which required all treatment plants to upgrade to secondary. And so for various reasons, the city didn't do that and applied for a waiver and got a waiver initially, but then the waivers were not renewed by the EPA because they decided that it should be upgraded to secondary. And so that was something that played out all across the country. And Honolulu is, one of the last places to come into compliance with the Clean Water Act.
Okay, any members of the public? Oh, Dennis, did you have a question?
Not really a question. I have a statement to make. A lot of times our utilities
Dennis, you have to phrase that as a question.
The question is, what will happen if everybody has tunnel vision and they raise their rates 5%? And then what happens to the people who have to pay the gas, the electricity, the utilities, all by 5%? What happens to them? Their cost of living doesn't go up by 5%. It goes up by maybe an exponential rate. And that's why a lot of people are leaving Hawaii. So my question is, rather than have tunnel vision, are we looking at what we can do to ease the burden on the average person? I guess if that's the question that I have, too often I see too many people moving to the mainland. They can't afford it anymore. And I said my piece.
Yeah, thanks. So cost of living is a really important consideration. And we do, that's part of our, so we issue sewer bonds to fund our construction projects. And so we do have a credit rating by the rating agencies, Fitch and Standards and Poor. And one of the things that they do evaluate is affordability. And according to the federal affordability ratios, Honolulu is doing pretty good actually in terms of sewer bills. It's the standard for water plus sewer is less than or equal to 4.5% of the area median income, and we're less than 3%. So there's a lot of cities that are higher. Not too many above the 4%. Many above where we are in terms of percentages. And of course, there are some places that are lower as well. So so we're technically okay on affordability. Now, I know that it might not feel that way to people, but if you just look at the service that we provide, we're very competitive with nationwide.
Okay, are there any members of the public who have any questions for Director Babcock? Okay.
So I'll just finish one quick thing. So just so you know, so we were going out to all the neighborhood boards. Nice to see council member again. We saw each other last night. And some of your representatives too, I've seen at public meetings. So we're going around to all the neighborhood boards. This is number 22 for us, 22 of the boards. We also had 6 public meetings that we held. One was in Mililani. And we have 3 more coming up, 3 more public meetings where people can come. So we're getting the word out about it. But we have made this proposal, and it does have to get approved by the city council. It's our funds that we need. It's our sewer fund, but it does have to get approved. And so it is up for approval at City Council. And it was proposed in October, and it's going through some committees. And so it'll be at Budget Committee next month, and then it will be at back to Council and in hopefully in February, and then has to go to Council again. So it's had one reading so far, and to pass an ordinance takes 3 readings. So there's going to be hearings and council meetings where people can participate, ask questions, and you know, through City Council. And so that process is ongoing, and folks are definitely invited to participate in that, as well as look at our website, call us up or email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate that closing statement. Also, that is not a done deal yet. For the record and for those, you know, here and those online, do you happen to know what resolution bill number that is for City Council?
It's Bill 60.
Bill 60. Okay, so folks, if you're interested in this topic, feel free to check out the Honolulu City Council's website, look up Bill 60 if you want to weigh in. Please feel free, and friendly reminder of neighborhood board members, since we haven't taken official action, your testimony would be as a private citizen. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mililani resident, Director Babcock.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to the filling of the vacancy, which we deferred. Rachel, any status on the Kate and Brandon residency question?
So they both are in sub-district 1.
Okay, wow. So we have a challenge. This is fun. So why don't you folks both approach the microphone, introduce yourselves, and share why you'd like to participate on this Mililani Neighborhood Board. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's shorter than he is. Let's see. I still have questions as to what the zone is, so it's kind of hard to be like put me in. I'm Brandon Kennard, class of 2015, Mililani High School. I guess where I'm at currently and why I'm interested in the civic engagement is that I'm with the North Shore Hawaii Farmers Union, and I sit on the legislative and policy committee there. So for me, this civic participation matters. Beyond the Farmers Union, I work with Hawaii Farm to School Network, again, in the legislative and policy capacity. So for me, integrating farming communities, which I've been trained through Go Farm in, and the community that I grew up in really matters. I started coming out to the neighborhood board more so when the housing development, the affordable housing development on the campus became public knowledge. And for me, I think as long as there's some capacity to enact change within the community and interactions where we start to acknowledge the need for this like mutual aid, where it's not only in case of emergency, but just for the sake of building community. If I can have any role in influencing, you know, how we connect as people through farming activities out in Wailua versus like bring them back home into more suburban areas, beautiful. But again, I still want to know what the full capacity of the role would be. But yeah, Brandon Kennard, 27 years old, class of 2015. Just happy to be here.
Thank you, Brandon.
Hello. Oh, very short. I believe I've met most of you. I was a board member from 2021 to 23, if I'm remembering correctly. My day job right now, I'm the office manager for Representative Kim Koko Iwamoto, but obviously I'd be here in my capacity as a private citizen. My job will entail going to neighborhood boards that are not in Mililani. They're in town, Kaka'ako, but I also feel like I miss my own community while being stuck in the midst of downtown and Kaka'ako, and I feel I feel drawn to come back if you guys will have me.
Okay, I'm gonna just open this up to just some brief questions. I'm gonna limit it to 3 per individual, and then I will finish it up by doing a brief explanation of the jurisdictional map for clarity to help Brandon out. And then I'll turn it over to Rachel. We'll turn it over to a vote. Okay, so if anyone has questions for Brandon, please raise your hand. We'll go with Brandon first. I see Sabrina has her hand up. Go ahead.
This question is for both individuals. I was just wondering, have either of you applied to be on the neighborhood board for the upcoming session beginning in the summer?
Not yet, but I'm going to.
Same response. I also haven't applied yet.
Wow. Got a lot of people interested in neighborhood board. Right on. Any other questions I guess we'll do Brandon and Kate at the same time. Any questions, please raise your hand. Emil.
Do you think that Oahu can be self-sufficient in production of food? Do we have enough land? Do we have enough water? I yield.
What a heavy question. I believe that we are able to alleviate food insecurity for the population of Oahu. So about one in every 3 households are facing food insecurity currently. And earlier numbers showed 1 in every 5 individuals are facing food insecurity. I genuinely believe that through the farming capacities that we have currently and with continued efforts in legislation, that we'd be able to have local procurement reach enough production and sourcing for that food insecure population. For the entirety of the island, I optimistically want to say yes, but I think there are many factors at play that go against the population's best interest if we're just looking at local productions and local efforts. So I think there's going to be a dependence on imports for a good period of time into the future. I'd love to see 50-50 split though, right? So my ambition would be carb production. If we can secure 30 to 50% carbs productions with bulu, kalo, etc., right? Some of the canoe crops or moldy crops, then I think that's a better play. But we have to, of course, educate, which is why farm to school I think is so important, and then come into community and actually voice that. So.
Any additional questions for Brandon or Kate? Being in person, anybody online? With their hands in? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, no additional questions for the 2 candidates. To close, Brandon, you asked a question about what the role would be. I'm sorry, it took me a while. I'm sharing a map of the Mililani Neighborhood Board's district area. This is our jurisdictional area. It's the entire town of Mililani and also including the northern area of Kunia. So sub-district 1 will begin at the H2 freeway, on the Mililani side, with Meheula Parkway as a main divider and Kamehameha Highway as your other divider. So those are your main areas. That's where your sub-district, that's the representative area for your sub-district. And in order to fill this vacancy, this is just a interim position since you're filling this vacancy. So that would begin tonight and be completed in June. As a friendly reminder for all those who are interested, since it sounds like it's going to be competitive this year, we are seeking registration for candidates. If you would like to run for Mililani Neighborhood Board, please feel free to visit the Neighborhood Commission's website. Rachel, I believe that candidate deadline is February 21st, yes. And that's also on the announcement section of our agenda. So please, if you're interested to serve the Mililani Community and Mililani Neighborhood Board, that would be from July of this year for a 2-year term. Also, so I mentioned you'll be representing that area, and then you'll be joining this group, and we will be voting on measures, making recommendations on behalf of our community, as you've seen since you've participated in our Mililani Community and Neighborhood Board meeting. So does that answer your question? Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna take it and turn it over to Rachel for the vote.
So first, we're gonna need to have nominations. So is there anyone that wants to nominate Caitlin? Is it Caitlin? Caitlin?
I'd like to nominate Kato Zawa for the vacancy.
And then any nominations for Brandon?
I'll nominate Brandon.
Oh.
And what's his last name?
Kennard.
Kennard.
Okay, so with that, now we can take the vote. So when I call your name, you can state the last name of the person that you're voting for. Okay, Rana,
Kennard.
Amang,
Kennard.
Ramadi,
Ozawa.
Dao, Flores, Ozawa. Okay, Free,
Ozawa.
Josephine,
Kennard.
Kanehe,
Abstain.
Kaapana Aki, Kim,
Brandon.
that's for Kennard, right? Brandon Kennard.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Kupu Ka'a, Sasha Lee,
Abstain.
Marilyn Lee,
I'm gonna vote for Ozawa, but I do want to say to Mr. Kennard, I noticed that you came to many meetings already. Okay, okay.
Nagamine,
Ozawa?
and is Alex Ozawa here? No. Okay. Okay. Park,
Ozawa.
Ross,
Ozawa.
Segura, Mark, Kennard, okay. Georgina,
Kennard.
Williams,
Kennard.
Bass,
Are you serious? You're withdrawing your candidacy. Okay, say that in the microphone for everyone.
I withdraw since it's a tie.
Okay, Kate Ozawa withdraws her nomination for Subdistrict 1, and Brandon Kennard by default wins this position due to the withdrawal.
I think I have to do it again.
Okay, do the vote again. Yep.
The number of votes.
I'm getting deja vu over here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start the roll call vote.
Okay.
Rana,
Kennard.
okay. Amang, Ramadi,
Kennard.
Dal, Flores, okay. Free,
Abstain.
okay. Josephine,
Kennard.
Kanehe,
Bernard.
Kaapana Aki, Kim,
Kennard.
Puka'a, Kennard, okay. Sasha Lee,
Abstain.
Marilyn Lee, okay. Nagamine,
Kennard?
I'll start here. Okay, Park,
Kennard.
Ross,
Kennard.
Segura, Smart, okay. Georgina,
Kennard.
Williams, Williams,
Kennard.
and then Bass.
Kennard.
Okay. So we have 17 for Kennard and 2 abstains. So Kennard has been voted onto the board.
Congratulations, Brandon. And let's give some applause to Kate for withdrawing and being a good sport on this vacancy. And I hope to see both your names in the candidacy. So I think that there will be some interesting elections coming up. But welcome and thank you, Kate. Okay, Brandon, what I'd like you to do is go over to Rachel. She's gonna take the oath of office. Now, it's getting late, so we're gonna continue. Yeah, all right. Yep, go right over. Okay. All right, we're gonna go into community concerns at this time. Are there any community members who would like to come forward and express any comment or concern within decorum of any reports or events, concerns within the community? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will move on to board business. I will like to recognize Board Secretary Gustafson for the approval of meeting minutes.
The meeting minutes were sent out. If you have any corrections, let me know. Otherwise, I move to approve the meeting minutes.
The meeting minutes were moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, I'd like to recognize Rachel for the vote of the minutes.
Okay, sorry, could I get, who was the second for the, right, okay. Okay, since there was no amendments, we can take that as a pass for the minutes.
Excellent. We're going to move on to the resolution, which relates to supporting the Hawaii Kickstart Soccer League's request to park along Lani Kohana Avenue from 3 to 7 p.m. on weekdays. I'd like to recognize Transportation Chair Ross for this resolution.
Aloha all. You should have the resolution in front of you. We kind of already previously discussed it, but what we're trying to do is just open up so that way we would ask the city and county to install signs or signage allowing individuals from the soccer team and the soccer group to be able to park along Lani Kohana Avenue from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. They are already able to park on the weekends, and the reason why we want to end it at 7 p.m. is so that there's no overnights or anything that would hinder traffic first thing in the morning or anybody late at night. Any questions?
So Ross has moved. Is there a second? Second by Smart. Okay, folks, we're in discussion on the resolution. Is there any discussion? Nagamine.
So just to clarify, so the status quo is that parking is not allowed on that stretch of Lani Kohana at all during the week. And
That is correct.
it's permitted on the weekends only.
And holidays.
And holidays. So
Holidays,
we would,
weekends.
yeah, so this would change it so that parking is permitted on weekdays only between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, members? Please raise your hand. Okay, seeing and hearing none on discussion, I'm going to recognize. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sabrina, you have a question. Go ahead.
My only concern with increasing the times or even allowing it at all is one of the main reasons parking is a problem over there is because of the townhouse complex. And I'm afraid we're going to lose the purpose, which is to give the parking to the soccer people by putting regular posted times there that the residents in the townhouse are going to become aware of and then take up on the street. So I'm not saying that this is a bad idea, but I'm saying I don't think this is going to address the problem with the townhouses over there parking on the side streets to begin with anyways. That's just my feeling regarding this.
One of the concerns that was brought up was for individuals who will be parking in the townhomes in the area over there, which is why we put a cutoff time of 7 p.m. So that way individuals would not think that they could just use that as secondary stalls or invite people over and park there Monday through Friday. We are aware that on the weekends, there are individuals who do park over there over the weekend, but we're just hoping that at least on Monday through Friday, we can try to at least try to give some extra parking to the soccer individuals. If the individuals in the townhomes choose to use it from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., that is their choice. We're not just saying that it can only be used for one group of individuals, but I understand, and we're just hoping to negate it by allowing just more parking over there. And as you know, that on the weekends, the soccer crew does go out there pretty early, try to get as many parking stalls as possible. But yes, there are individuals who will be using it for other activities as well.
Wouldn't the activities only be from 3 to 7? I mean, that would be the available parking. Should we approve this?
That is correct. That's the reason why we put the time of 3 to 7 p.m. That way there's not overnight parking or individuals thinking that they can use it as their secondary parking stall.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion, members? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Rachel, for the vote.
Okay, so motion is to support the resolution for, what's it called? For the Hawaii Kickstart Soccer League request to park along Anikuhana Avenue around 3 to 7 on the weekdays. Okay, when I state your name, let me know what you're voting for. Rana?
Approve.
Amang? Ramani?
Yes.
Dal? Horace? Breed?
Aye.
Josephine?
Approve.
Kane?
Approve.
Kapana Aki? Kim?
Approve.
Pupu Ka'a? Tarsha Lee?
Approve.
Marilyn Lee? Nagamine?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Ross?
Approve.
Segura? Smart? Tersina? Williams?
Approve.
Bass?
Yes.
Okay, with that, we have 19 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 abstention.
All right, thank you, Justin. And thank you, Board Member Ross, for the resolution. Okay, folks, we're going to move on. I do note that it is 9:22, so we're going to recognize the elected official reports. First up, Nestor Garcia for Congressman Case. Nestor, I see Nestor online. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board, those in the audience and those who are viewing this online. Happy New Year. Nestor Garcia, Communications Director for Congressman Ed Case, for our at least once a quarter appearance before your board, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, I know that you're coming close to 10 o'clock and there are others who will be following me. The most important point I wanted to raise with those who are attending this meeting is that Congressman Ed Case will be appearing in person next week, Wednesday. This is a series of so-called talk stories, town halls, if you will, that he's hosting next week. There are 6 of them, actually. So Wednesday evening at Mililani High School, January 29th, and from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And given what is happening with the new Congress, the 119th Congress, as well as the new administration in the White House, I assume that many people will want to come and attend this session. And there are many questions that will be asked and we'll try to answer. Madam Chair, I did post the Congressman's first quarter neighborhood board report in the chat. Just to go over it very quickly, it just discusses his appointments to the various service academies, the winners of his congressional app challenge that he has annually, and the fact that he is going to be sitting once again as a member of the key appropriations subcommittees of Defense and Homeland Security. Not quite sure if he's going to retain the seat on natural resources. There's been some discussion, Madam Chair, members, about affordability and the cost of living. So the congressman is doing what he can on the federal level, and he did introduce not just last week actually, the Affordable Shipping for All Act, not to be confused with the Jones Act measures that he also will be introducing to reduce the cost of shipping to our Hawaii. But the Affordable Shipping for All Act actually has to do with people who find it difficult to get ships sent over to them. Like, for instance, you order something from Amazon, it takes quite a while to get here. The cost is high, and sometimes there are companies that don't want to ship their goods to us at all for some reason or another, especially to those areas that are so-called non-contiguous places of our country, like Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, American Samoa, U.S. Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, and Puerto Rico. So all these people came together and said, hey, we need to make sure that we stop this discriminatory practice against those who live outside of the boundaries of the continental United States. This year, though, he's actually taking aim at the United States Postal Service. I don't know if anyone is aware of this, but they did develop what's called a Zone 10, for these non-contiguous areas that raised the rates for certain parcels that are mailed to us. This new designation of Zone 10. So this bill hopefully will address those concerns. It's been introduced, and we'll see whether or not they'll get a hearing in the committees that they're assigned to. Other than that, Madam Chair, members, I'm open to any questions you might have.
Thanks, Nestor. Members of the board, members of the public, are there any questions for Congressman Case's office? I'll ask you a question, Nestor. Can you elaborate a little more on the increase of postage rates that you referenced?
Yeah.
Especially
Hold on,
out
I'm
here,
gonna-
or for out here in, I guess, Zone 10, Hawaii?
Yeah. Hold on, I just called up that press release and it disappeared on my screen. Let's see if I can bring that up again. Oops. Okay. I'm gonna have to post it on the chat. I don't know why my computer actually went blank there, Madam Chair. But
Okay.
there's certain parcel postage rates that went up. There are about 3 or 4 of them that went up by 5%. Yeah. So not the regular mail. No, not the regular mail, but certain parcel postages packages that that the Postal Service delivers. Yeah, it went up by 5%. So we questioned the Postmaster General about that, but lost the argument. So anyway, I'll post it on the chat, Madam Chair, our press release that discusses that more in detail.
Thank you. That would be helpful. Okay, I don't see any other questions for, oh, Emil, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm curious. I will probably ask a congressman, but if I don't have a chance, what do you think if I was a plaintiff and I sue somebody for unconstitutionality of the Jones Act? Who would it be?
Who would the government, who
Would
in
be
the government would be sued?
Would be the
Yeah.
defender. It's like
I'm not quite sure who the parties would be on either case. Know that there are shipping companies that Congressman usually refers to, and we know who they are, Matson and Pesha, yeah. So
But they
that's why
follow
there's
follow the law.
yeah,
the
but
law
they're following the law. That's the
law
law that
itself
they've been
is
following.
unconstitutional. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. Seeing and hearing no other questions, we're going to move on to Tony from the representing Governor's Office. Welcome, Tony. Thank you, Nestor.
I'll keep it short because I know we don't have a lot of time. You guys all probably saw the state of the state that the governor gave the other day, focusing on a lot of the initiatives and things that have already been put into place or are going to be put into place, namely the kauhales being completed to date, 17 of them. The largest income tax cut in Hawaii's history was signed into law, reducing income tax payments by 71% by 2031. 2,451 affordable units to be completed by the end of 2024. Nearly 5,000 units have benefited from exemptions from the emergency proclamation relating to affordable housing. 7,796 displaced Maui residents have been housed. 554 total people assisted with their loans from the Hawaii Education Loan Repayment Program. And 79 out of the 554 people were able to pay off their loans completely. So with that, if you have any questions, I don't have anything else at this time.
Mahalo. Are there any questions for the governor's office? Oh, okay. Well, Mike's been quiet, so we'll go with Mike, then Mary, then Les, or sorry, Les, then Mary. Go ahead.
Good evening. This would be for state highways. The Kipapa Gulch Bridge on the northbound lane, pretty close to the very edge of the bridge going towards Mililani. There's with a separation joint, some of the emulsion has come off the top, but underneath it, there's cracks in the cement. It could be superficial, it might be structural, I don't know. But they should fill that in with some type of epoxy because when the water gets in the cement, it gets down into the rebar. And when it starts rusting, the engineers say it'll push at 2,200 pounds per square inch and it'll crack the cement. So if they could take a look at it.
The Gulch Bridge?
Roosevelt Bridge?
Yeah. I'll pass that along. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Les, then Mary.
I just want to make this fast up. Does the governor have anything in mind to deal with the illegal fireworks, working with senators or the House members to
Yes, he does.
address the illegal fireworks? And being that it's already illegal and people are bringing it in, I think the focus should be on getting it, finding where it's coming in on the docks, having an investigation with FBI or police or whoever, undercover, whatever it takes, because the laws are not working now. You know that already. And laws are not going to help stop this illegal fireworks from coming in. It's a terroristic threat. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Mary, go ahead.
Okay, I see that in the budget that 10 million each of the next 2 fiscal years were budgeted for the Attorney General to file potential lawsuits against the Trump administration policies. Can you tell me what policies that you're thinking of opposing?
So at this time, there's only been one that the Attorney General has joined on, which has to do with birthright citizenship. At this time, she's evaluating whatever comes because the position of the Attorney General is to follow the rule of law. If whatever is being proposed is legal, there's no issue. But if it comes across as something that goes against the Constitution or is goes against law, then she's going to look into it further and see if there's any course of action to take.
Okay, I did see something today that said that people who are here illegally aren't supposed to have birthright citizenship. And I can send that to the Attorney General and hopefully save $10 million a year.
Well, that's just a pot of money that's there if she needs it, but she may not.
That would be good. Yeah.
All right, I see a question from Marilyn. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I am going back to the Roosevelt Bridge. When the bridge was repaired, the sign that was on there for many, many years and actually indicated the origin of the bridge, which I believe was the WPA. That sign was never replaced. And I've heard from someone who knows that that sign was destroyed by the workers, but that bridge needs to have the sign replaced. And I hope that this can be relayed to the Department of Transportation and that they can make another sign which would give the origin of the bridge its fair due. Thank you.
Actually, so I have some continuity to that for your help for information. That was an issue since Rep. Yamane was the one who got the funding, right? And rightfully for the bridge. That was something long relayed to DOT, is to replace that that sign since it's a historical marker. The bridge predates World War II. So it might be, it would be definitely something to look at for DOT since it's a historical issue.
I do remember this coming up before, and I'll check to see if they're looking into it. I do remember giving it to them, but I have not checked for the answer in a while, so I will check again.
Thank you. Any further questions for Governor's representative? Okay, seeing and hearing none, thank you so much. Tony, we'll see you next month. Okay, next up, Tracy representing Mayor Rick Blangiardi.
Okay, good evening, Chair, members, Tracy Kubota, Representative Mayor Rick Blangiardi. I'll keep it quick. I know you folks have the report on the table there. I just wanted to follow up on a prior request from a member regarding speed humps on Lanikuhana Avenue between Kamayo Street and Luapalai Place. So this is DTS's response. They're going to actually conduct a study which will include a review of the area's traffic collision history, traffic surveys, and a site inspection. So DTS is going to inform the board of their findings upon completion of the study. So that's the only outstanding one I had. I will follow up with any other questions if you folks have any for me to take back.
Any questions for Tracy and the mayor's office? Mary Smart, go ahead.
Okay, so we saw that Hart's being sued again for 350 some million. Is this really a viable project? Every time that rail goes by, it's empty. Any of the numbers increasing?
Okay, so you want me to find out the increases from prior, or you want a monthly? What would you like?
You know, how much more are we paying for that system? And we just get sued, and they say that it's Hart's mismanagement that's causing all this. It's just hurting the general public.
Okay, so
That
you just want me to relay the message? Or do you have
I
a
have to ask a question.
Okay.
How long are we going to have to sustain this? I'd really like it to be shut down. Will we ever shut it down, or are we stuck with it?
Okay.
The rail.
I'm pretty sure you're stuck with it, but if you want me to ask the question,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tracy or the mayor's office? Any members of the public with questions to the mayor's office? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, next up. Is there a representative available for Council Member Val Okimoto's office? Welcome, come on down.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Board. My name is Aaron. I'm with the Office of Councilmember Val Okimoto. Quick legislative update. The Honolulu City Council held its last regularly scheduled monthly meeting 2024 on December 11th. We honored former House Speaker, Councilmember Calvin Say, for his decades of public service. We have a new member on our team, Ms. Pua Smith Kahuhane. She comes from former Speaker's office. You may have seen her around. She has experience with the NCO as well. The council last week considered the following bills and resolutions. Bill 52 is relating to electric bicycles. It's supposed to regulate the possession and use of bicycles and electric bicycles. That's kind of on the back of the resolution we passed in 2024. Bill 61 is relating to wheelies. I'll let the other council member speak a little more on that since he proposed that. Resolution 24-267 urges the city administration and the Honolulu Police Department to develop a plan during the fiscal year 2025 to create a new police substation in the Mililani area. The testimony opens tomorrow for that. We have our full council coming up this upcoming Wednesday, so you can submit testimony through our system there. And it may be in the chat already, the link to that. Resolution 2525, requesting the city administration to submit the updated 2025 local hazard mitigation pay to the city council. That is being heard, as well as last week we had an informational briefing, an update on the firework enforcement of the city and county. You saw that, Leslie. We also are looking at resolution 25-3. As I said, the testimony is going to be open starting tomorrow. That is reaffirming the city's policy. If I know we are starting to get some phone calls about the placement of the landfill. It's reaffirming the city policy as set forth in the resolution 03-09 FD1 that was adopted April 16th on 2003. That municipal solid waste landfills should not be located in the proximity to the city's underground drinking water sources. We had a couple other concerns this month and last month. A homeless camp on Kamehameha Highway and Wakalani Drive. The homeless was on private property that bordered state property. We let HPD know with permission. The officer of District 2 and the community policing team spoke with the homeless individual in the area and offered resources to help her situation. Individual declined services and left the area, and the police team notified June Yang of the Department of Transportation in their office, who picked up their belongings that the individual left behind. And on Hukuli Street, there's a loose bus pad making a thumping noise. TDC was sent out to look at the remedies for that, for the loose expansion joint, and are now kicking around some solutions. I can take some questions back if you'd like.
Members, any questions for Councilmember Okimoto's office? Members of the audience, any questions? Yes, Brandon.
Yes, that came out of this board actually, but it was 24-267.
Any other questions for Councilmember Okimoto's office? Okay, before we let you go, I just want to make that friendly reminder to all neighborhood board members. Resolution 24-267 that Councilmember Okimoto introduced is a direct copy of what we passed last year. So since this board unanimously passed a resolution asking for HPD to provide a plan for either a smaller district or a substation, more the substation. This resolution that Councilmember Okimoto introduced is verbatim that resolution, very close. It's like 95%. And it's seeking the HPD to put together a plan for a sub-district or for a substation. So I encourage, since this was a major issue in 2023 and last year for this neighborhood board and very vocal from all of you, I do encourage testimony. It was a little short on testimony. So if this is passionate to you and your neighbors, please spread the word to submit testimony on 24-267, since that was official action from this board. That's important. HPD is opposed. I did testify, and I'll leave that for the rest of my chair's report. But yeah, they did oppose, and I submitted testimony on behalf of this board. I encourage all of you to do as well.
And again, the 25-3 deals with landfill. So if you have any problems with landfill and that placement, please submit testimony, because that's what's going to sway some of the council members out there, or at least get the administration to perk up a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, I see that Councilmember Matt Wire is here. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, members of the community. I didn't have any follow-up from Kelly. I know there was one question that came up a few times at prior boards, so just wanted to address that. I do try to attend as often as I can. I know I haven't been in a while. I did leave a Sunset Beach meeting that we had tonight about the Turtle Bay expansion, which is blowing up there, to make it tonight because of the landfill issue. And so my commitment is to be here for issues that do dramatically affect the community, knowing that I respect all of you very much. I know the boards run meticulously. The issues with the city are documented really well. And I do have a dedicated staff member to be here every meeting. And so do commit to follow through with that. And I, of course, will try to come more often this year as well. And just reiterate the commitment or the offer that I think Kelly did make at a prior meeting. More than happy to set a meeting with anyone on the board. So you can email, text me, call. I know some folks have, taken me up on that. And then, of course, if there are issues coming up that you want me here for, just give me an update. And of course, I'll be trying to be here as often as I can as well. And coming to that, as Board Member Lee mentioned, I think that the landfill is an issue that's raised a lot of concerns in the Mililani community. I've received a lot of phone calls since Mayor made the announcement in December. I understand the concerns. I do want folks to understand that it's a marathon and not a sprint. A landfill is not going to pop up overnight, and there's a lot of opportunity for public engagement on this. And so do want to allay the concerns in that I don't want anyone losing sleep over it or being worked up too much, and I know it's been a stressful situation for a lot of folks. I appreciate the city administration's efforts and sincerity. I just disagree with their determination, understanding that, we have engineers that are responsible for our landfill, and I think are doing their due diligence and sincerely believe in their ability to implement current and modern technology. I also firmly believe in Chief Engineer Manager Ernie Lau's commitment and sincerity as an engineer that's responsible for protecting our drinking water. And so our commitment in our office's work has been in alignment with the work of Board of Water Supply. We stand with them. I do have in our newsletter some updates on the landfill itself, which I know many people by now are somewhat aware of. And, as Councilmember Okimoto's office mentioned, we do have resolution 25003 coming up at the next council meeting. Welcome and request testimony in support of that. That was co-introduced with Councilmember Radiant Cordero, who represents Red Hill, and it did pass out of committee with 5 votes of the committee members, and we had a friendly amendment from a non-voting member. So we do hope that the rest of the council will join us in passing the resolution as well, understanding that it's reiterating and confirming the city's longstanding position of not placing a landfill over our drinking water. That was introduced actually by Senator Mike Gabbard when he was a council member, and I know some of our legislators like Senator De La Cruz were there at the time. And of course, that's the beginning of the process for the city to just demonstrate to the administration that that's where the council stands. We'll have opportunities to chime in. And as I've shared with members of our community, for our office, we'll be utilizing all legal options to change course, right? And we have requested that of the administration to just let us know the best way to facilitate that. And so at this point, we'll be anticipating the proposed budget in March from Mayor and do anticipate putting in provisos as much as we can to limit the use of city funds into the next fiscal year. And of course, there's other resolutions that will come through regarding the logistics that we hope to deny. And I guess specifically that would be the public infrastructure map symbol that council would have to pass to allow for the acquisition. And so with that in mind, I do want to share that there's going to be other opportunities to get engaged as well. I want to mahalo all of our area legislators. I was just talking to Representative La Chica on some legislation she's worked on. I know that Senator De La Cruz, Representative Amy Purcell, Representative Sean Quinlan, along with other folks, I think Senator Kidani joined Senator De La Cruz on legislation introduced in the Senate. And just want to, and maybe, and I'll let everyone else speak for themselves. But this is some of the conversations we've been having. And so just want to say, if you want an overview of all the bills, and I know our state folks will be sharing, so not to overstep into their territory, but given that this is a city issue, just wanted to express my gratefulness for their willingness to introduce legislation as well. You can sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send that out with all the information, and also let you know what committees it goes to, and so you know to request hearings for those bills. Again, I know our state legislators will do that as well, but don't want to put them in the awkward situation of having to, push on their colleagues either. So we're happy to take that bullet if we need to. I have updates on legislation that we've introduced in addition to the resolution. We have Bill 64 that would expand the city's down payment assistance program. And I'll just go briefly because I know we're short on time, but happy to talk story after on the bills. Bill 61 was the wheelie bill that was mentioned earlier by Councilmember Okimoto's office. Both of those bills we're still in discussion on. We're going to meet with HHFDC this week, tomorrow morning, with the City Department of Community Services, because we just want to make sure any city programs we put out complement and work with any state programs. And then on the wheelie bill, we're working with Corporation Council to address some of the concerns that they had. I wanted to note that Bill 51 relating to adaptive reuse. So that's making use of some of the commercial buildings downtown that are no longer in use, particularly after COVID, did pass and was signed by Mayor. And so we're hoping to use that as one tool to increase our housing inventory. Kelly was going to drop the newsletter into the chat, and you can also find it on our website as well. And I did distribute it already. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, I see we have a question from Board Member Freed. Go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, aloha everyone. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind the curveball here because I had another event and I came into. Otherwise, I would have talked about this more extensively with other folks. But specifically, council member, fireworks. Pun intended, hair on fire. I attend a regular New Year's Eve party where I watch the fireworks. I mean, frankly, I was so surprised it was so much worse this year. But here's the corker, and this is what I'm going to ask you, is one of the family members of this party drove by 2 police officers standing around in the street watching people shoot off illegal aerials. That's not unique. It happens every year. And it happens all over. So my question is, what is the council doing? What can the council do to hold HPD accountable for enforcement?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And I'll bring that up. I do have a meeting with Chief Logan next week on some other matters. And so I'll bring that up into his attention because that isn't acceptable. Just from my interactions with HPD, I do know many of them are proactively engaging in law enforcement. And so appreciate you raising that concern. I really do. I'll just share that I know one of the challenges with those who are, engaging the community and trying to enforce the law is that particularly on New Year's, for example, just the number of fireworks going on. We know that even if every HPD officer was responding to every situation, there was just too many to respond to. That doesn't mean they won't be, and they aren't, but that is an issue that we're confronting as a community. And just in having conversations with state folks and also HPD and other law enforcement across the state, I think there's a need that is recognized by everyone that we need to provide more clarity. And I think some of it came up tonight about how do we have better enforceable laws, right? On the HPD side, even if HPD is responding, oftentimes they're responding after the firework is exploded, right? The evidence is gone. And so how do we have a standard similar to the wheelie bill, right? In the wheelie bill, we tried to make a really broad standard, just defining something very simply without getting into all the technical definitions, because it's something the officer can cite when they see it. And then when they go to court, you don't have to get bogged down in all the technical evidentiary requirements. So it's easier to maintain that conviction. Similarly with fireworks, we want a really simple standard. We do have some ordinances on the books, and what happens though is that there's certain restrictions on what counties can impose as a penalty. And so right now, a lot of the state laws that exist, and of course they vary depending on the type of crime, right, from misdemeanor up into felony. And of course there's been discussion about increasing some of the firework offenses up to a higher level felony. So we are limited in that sense. I know we've been having that conversation, and for discussion purposes, Councilmember Okimoto's office with, I believe, Councilmember Kiaina was proactive in introducing a bill to increase our penalties, and I believe they're having those conversations with HPD and Corporation Council. And so that is something I think that requires collaboration. We do have Major Lambert from HPD going over to the State Department of Law Enforcement, and that makes me really hopeful because him being at the State Department with his relationships at HPD, I think will provide for a more collaborative conversation about how state and city, along with our federal partners, can address the issue. And of course, I welcome feedback. I think a lot of great feedback came up tonight.
Any other questions for Councilmember Wire? Emil?
Thank you for being here. I have a question about infestation of this island with this coconut rhinoceros beetle. And I saw you in Whitmore Village. We were talking about the landfill, so I didn't want to ask you that question. But like behind you, where you were speaking, there are 5 palm trees infected. So it's affecting your district as well. And what I know, even from my little farm, which I have other palms, and it's already jumping to, I think it's a Manila palm, Adonidia. So it's not only coconut anymore, it's dead. And also I hear from people that, even banana trees are affected. So, we are talking about, I mean, we spoke about this a year ago. Exactly in January, there was some expert here which was explaining to us that some palm trees could survive, whatever. But what is gonna happen here? Because this is out of control. It's already more than 12 years. I'm asking the same question to Senator De La Cruz. He's giving me some numbers to call, which I'm calling. I'm receiving some emails what to do. But if I do something and neighbor doesn't, the bug doesn't discriminate. I mean, it's gonna be 50 offsprings, and they will infect again and again and again, and it's much worse. And you mentioned something in Whitmore Village that you are prepared to deal some different way with the green waste. I'm not sure what you meant, but you can elaborate on it. But obviously, if the green waste from those infected palm trees is treated the same way like every other green waste, it's perfect, incubation habitat for the new generation of the same infection. Thank you.
So I appreciate that. And I think you bring up a good point at the end that I think all of us can be mindful of in terms of how we can all, and actually Director Babcock may be an expert in some areas of this, so welcome input. But Hawaiian Earth Products, for example, does the municipal composting for the city. And so the process they use is going to kill off and get rid of the CRB. And so that's actually a really good source of mulch for use at your home. And there's a need to mind our mulch at home because oftentimes the mulch we're doing in our yards can't carry and give a place for CRB to populate. And so I think that's something we can all be mindful of, and also looking for the signals of CRB in the trees, like you mentioned, cutting on the leaves. From the city's perspective, we understand that collaboration is key on so many issues, right? Not just invasives. I know last year with Councilmember Kiaina, we introduced, and thankfully with our council colleagues, passed a resolution asking for city partners to come together, and then her and I convened a meeting when Maui Invasive Species Council was here with them, and then Oahu Invasive Species Council, and then several city departments. We had Parks Department and Climate Change Sustainability Resilience, just identifying how the city can really operate in this space better. With parks, we've talked through with Parks Department and the Division of Urban Forestry, at least on the city side, the need to really take care of our city inventory. And so those are, like you said, the trees at the parks, the historic or unique trees like the ones on Royal Palm Drive are being treated right now because of CRB infestation they had. And so for those types of trees, if you see, and I'll just say this, if you see CRB infected trees on city property or parks, let us know right away, and we'll convey that to the city department directly. And so they can go through their treatment process. If you're talking about on individual property, my understanding, and I'll defer to our state partners, is that the Department of Agriculture has guidance for how individuals can take care of that. But I don't think there's one person that's going to come out and treat private trees CRB. But from the city side, trying to be a partner, we did provide space at city property in Kaneohe for OISC, the State Invasive Species Committee, or the Oahu's Invasive Species Committee, to actually have office space where they can continue to do work. Because in addition to CRB, especially for District 2, which for us goes from Mililani down right to Waipio and then around to Kahalu'u, we have not just the CRB, but the little fire ants, particularly in the Kolau area. The pretty green parakeets that are actually invasive. I think a lot of folks know that by now, but also extremely damaging for crops. And so I agree with you that it should be a priority because at this point, we're past, yeah, it's exponential. It impacts our sustainability. We have a farming ag expert now on the board, among many of you probably. And so I think it's important to consider implications on that or for that. And we are past the point of eradication for most of these. And so it's us all needing to step up as a community to tackle it, to reduce the impact.
Do you discriminate when you pick up the green waste, you know, if it's coming from the infected trees or not? Because if you don't,
You're talking about in the green bin.
yeah,
So the green bin will get treated because it'll get
the
taken.
green bin get treated anyway. So
Yes.
you don't have
Sorry, that's a short answer. Sorry, I went kind of long. So yeah. So the green, all the green waste, if you put it in the green bin that the city garbage truck picks up, it's going to go to Hawaiian Earth Products and that'll get composted and treated. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions for Councilmember Wire, members of the board, members of the public? Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, representative for Senator Kidani's office, Trevor.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Trevor Nagamine. I'm here on behalf of Senator Kidani. So just a couple highlights. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a mix-up, so I don't have like our usual written newsletter. However, I do have some talking points to discuss for tonight. So just as as you were probably aware, opening day for this year's legislative session was last week, Wednesday, the 15th. So Senator Kidani's priorities for 2025 will be, providing a safe and advantageous learning environment for students, addressing teacher and staff retention, and addressing student achievement. So that would include things like, aligning curriculum to be relevant to what today's workforce requires, and support new and ongoing career and technical education. Again, to that is in line with what Hawaii's workforce will require in the future. Also, the Women's Legislative Caucus, they held a panel discussion earlier today to discuss their package. You can see more details about that on the Capitol website. So just very brief. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions, members of the public for Senator Kidani's office? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Malachi representing Senator Dela Cruz's office online. Welcome, Malachi.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Yeah, Malachi Burrows reporting for Senator Dela Cruz. So I will just start off. There was some discussion on the landfill in Central Oahu, proposed landfill. So I'll just summarize 3 bills that Senator Dela Cruz has introduced, basically to oppose the placement of the landfill in Central Oahu. Specifically, Senate Bill 448, so 448, would appropriate funds for the state to purchase a conservation easement from Dole, which would ensure that those agriculture lands are kept in production and protected from basically a landfill being placed there. Senate Bill 438 would prevent any landfills from being placed over aquifers. And that same bill would also ensure that that landfills cannot be placed on agriculture land classified as Ag 1 or Ag 2, which would further protect those agricultural lands, save those for food production. Lastly, Senate Bill 446 would require the counties to include no pass zones in their integrated solid waste management plans, Again, that would prevent landfills in areas that are critical to freshwater resources. Those are the three bills that Senator has introduced already. So those are introduced. When those get referred to committee, Senator encourages anyone who, opposes the landfill or wants to make sure that those lands are saved for agriculture, and that there's not a risk of, our water resources being contaminated. It encourages people to testify for those bills once those bills get scheduled for their hearings. Some more legislation I wanted to mention is Senate Bill 1100 or Senate Bill 1100. This is another biosecurity bill. So if you guys remember last year, there was some pretty significant funding dedicated to the Department of Agriculture for biosecurity. And this is a good follow-up to some of the discussions that was just had about coconut rhinoceros beetle. So this is a pretty substantive bill. It has a lot of updates and changes, more funding for agriculture. So I'll just run down the list of some changes that this bill would encompass. First, it would establish a new deputy director within the Department of Agriculture, specifically for biosecurity, to manage all biosecurity programs. It would also establish transitional facilities to allow for greater inspections of cargo and parcels coming into the island. That'll be important because we don't want to slow down operations at the ports of entry, like the airports and the harbors. So having separate transitional facilities is important for that flow. Thirdly, it would allow the Department of Agriculture, with approval from the governor, to declare biosecurity emergencies so the state can respond quickly and with the resources needed to respond to a biosecurity emergency. It would also increase penalties for illegally transporting plants, animals, and microorganisms. It would also attach the Hawaii Invasive Species Council to the Department of Agriculture, and this is to facilitate better coordination and collaboration between those two entities. Thirdly, it would rename the agriculture declaration forms to biosecurity forms. And this is just to emphasize the importance of filling out those forms. It was the idea that if you rename them to biosecurity forms, it emphasizes that this is a security measure and not just declaring agriculture, because right now it's just called an agricultural declaration form. It also would create pathways for government industry agreements to coordinate biosecurity responses between state and private businesses. And lastly, it would continue the funding from last year, and then also add some additional funding for expanding the biosecurity program. So that can all be found in the bill. Again, that's SB 1100. I also just want to mention the Ways and Means Committee, which Senator is the chair of, is going to be wrapping up budget informational briefings on January 28th. That'll be the last budget informational briefings. That'll be Department of Taxation, Budget and Finance, and we'll also get an economic forecast for the next few years. So that's an interesting one for economic and taxation topics. And then if people want to engage the legislature, testify, submit testimony in person, online, track bills, a good resource is the public access room that's administered through LRB at the legislature. So they have tips and videos on how to submit testimony, all the rest. So public access room is a good resource for anyone wanting to engage. Okay, that's it. And I can try to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Malachi. Members of the board, members of the audience, are there any questions for Senator Dela Cruz's office?
I got my hand up, honey.
Oh, I see it. There you go, Anne.
Might be hard to see. So Malachi, thank you for that report. I'm very heartened to hear the part of the bill about inspections of cargo, because that also would handle fireworks as a problem. So I actually have this as a question for all our elected officials. I think this board would benefit and would like to see a comprehensive update of some kind. So I don't think it should be just individual legislators about the fireworks bills that are out there and what is their progress as we come into the next board meeting and throughout. I mean, we're looking at Los Angeles and California going up in smoke. We've already seen Lahaina go up in smoke. And if fireworks is going to contribute to that problem, it's a definite threat to our state. And anyway, I just think it's important that we get an update, and I pass that to you to pass to Senator Dela Cruz and to my friend Amy, Representative Peruso is also here. Is if there's a way we could get a consolidated report, who would do that? What would it, I actually thought of asking the committee chairs for consumer protection, but as you said, this is as agricultural and law enforcement implications as well. So I don't know. I think we need a report. I don't know who we should ask to do it.
Got that noted, and I will mention that at the ports of entry, Senator is interested in seeing if the inspections and the scanning they do of the crates coming in and so on and so forth can be done. Two birds, one stone. Scan for fireworks or other illegal stuff, and then also scan for any like pathogens or stuff.
Species and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, got that noted. Thank you.
Any other questions for Senator Dela Cruz's office? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Thank you so much, Malachi. Okay, up next, we have Representative Lauren Matsumoto.
Okay. Good evening, Chair, members of the board, members of the public. Happy to be with you all. And of course, we heard opening day was that just last week, Wednesday? That was last week, Wednesday. So it's been 1 week and there's been a lot that's been happening in that time. So one of the things I did want to share with everybody, if you live in my district, you got this in the mail. It says Happy New Year's, but the most important part is on the back. And this has the legislative calendar. And I think so often people don't realize how we run the legislature is very different, how they do it at the city council. So for example, tomorrow is our bill filing deadline. That is the deadline for the rest of the year for us to put bills in. So understanding how things move through the legislature is really important. So you have something handy to have with all of those key dates of things moving through the legislature. So wanted to point that out. For opening day, was able to give the opening day speech along with the Speaker of the House. And one of the things I just wanted to note, because it's something we don't talk about a lot, but for the very first time, at least in my experience in the legislature, there is agreed upon values for both the majority and the minority in the House, which I think is something that's really important, something that we stand on in our commitment to serving the state and collaborating together. So that was something that was encouraging. Haven't seen you all since November. So there is a whole bunch of things in here of community events. I'll let you look through that yourself. But the one thing I did want to mention, because it was very special to me and I worked hard to do it, is so often as legislators, we get to MC the choral festivals or the band concerts. And so I played with the Mililani Orchestra. And so Mr. Hirata asked me to perform with the high school students. When I came to practice, I realized it's been 20 years since I graduated. So it's been 20 years since I played my violin. So it was a great teaching moment where I got to show my kids, well, I have to work really hard, and was able to perform with them. So you can see that, or you can go on our Instagram and watch the video. But I have to mention that because it was a lot of hard work. But I did want to also see, if you see on the important updates, just really quickly, that the governor released the $6 million for the covered play court for Mililani High School, as well as I know it's right outside of this neighborhood board's jurisdiction, but also $1 million for Mililani Ike for their play court. So wanted to bring that to your attention. And again, we had our Women's Legislative Caucus breakfast this morning. Proud to be a co-convener along with Senator Kidani. And so you can look at our updates on our Instagram for Women's Legislative Caucus, which is Hawaii_WLC. And with that, I have so many other things to tell you, but I will save it for next time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Representative Matsumoto? Members and members of the audience. I see Sabrina has her hand up. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Yes, I was reviewing some of the measures that you introduced, and I'm very concerned with the measures regarding your income tax cut and your general excise tax removal from food and groceries and Medicare medicine. I think we're missing the forest for the trees here, and I was wondering what's your thought process behind that? Because if we remove income sources from our budget, they're just going to increase our taxes percentage wise. You know, if you're removing it from the items that we can tax, they're going to increase above the 4% that we currently pay. So what was your thought process in removing that revenue stream from the state, the city?
Okay, so those are two different measures, and it depends which ones go through. But one of the things that they've seen, they've done studies with NCSL and CSG that many times when we're doing it as a state already, lowering the income tax. And they've seen that across the country. When that happens, they've actually increased because people are going out and spending more. And so just something to take in. There's a lot of studies on that. I can provide that next time. But those bills, there's only 4 states that tax medical services, and we're one of them. So these things are proven across the country. Again, I can bring that information in for next time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Representative Matsumoto? Marilyn.
Is the representative, is the minority caucus supporting or introducing any fireworks bills?
Not directly with the minority caucus, and I'll really quickly explain how we came up with our bills. We actually we did a listening tour, and then we put out which some people attended, and we also put out surveys. And what we put into our legislative package this year was the top things that we heard back in the surveys. And so all of those things happened before the very tragic event that occurred on New Year's. And so, but we have signed on. I know our public safety chair has been working really hard on that, and I've seen many of those bills go through. So there's a lot of comprehensive firework bills that are being introduced, but our caucus did not as a package, and neither did the majority, because so often you decide on those packages in the November, December timeframe. You're welcome.
Any additional questions for Representative Matsumoto? Seeing none, congratulations on your reelection as a minority leader of
thank
the
you.
House of Reps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Representative Trish LaChica.
Good evening, members, chair, vice chair, members of the board, and happy new year. Trish LaChica, representative for District 37. As Rep. Matsumoto mentioned, opening day, and both of us were able to bring our families with us on the chamber floor, and both our 2 kids were very well behaved over the 2.5 hours they got to sit through the opening day festivities. So wanted to just say a quick mahalo to the board and member Ross for just passing the resolution for Kickstart Soccer folks, and just mahalo for doing that for them, as they've been working on that since October of last year. Thank you so much. So just very excited to share that this year I have the privilege of serving as part of supporting House leadership as the Assistant Majority Floor Leader. So what that means is really supporting our Majority Floor Leader on the floor, helping to count the votes, assisting with bill review during major deadlines, assisting with caucus support, and just anything that, House leadership needs assistance with. But I'm also continuing as vice chair of education, and then 2 new committees I'm joining this year are the committees on housing and transportation. Wanted to share that in the newsletter, this is something that has been really top of mind for everybody, but we have an affordability and cost of living survey that I encourage everybody to in the district to respond to. It's also in the Google Drive, I believe, that was uploaded for folks online. I really wanted to just get your thoughts on how affordability affects us all. And then I was listening in because I was with Member Freed in that event that we were at earlier this evening, but on the Kipapa Gulch encampment that had been reactivated. So in 2023, because it's federal land, it really took several months of working with the U.S. Army garrison to really work with them and bring the state to work on that on those lands. And so there has been a change of command with the garrison commander, but since end of last year, December through this month of January, so Kealoha West Oahu has been actively providing outreach services. So Michael, Member Dow, been talking to Jenny with the 2 dogs. So that's the issue. She has 2 dogs, so it's very difficult to get her space into shelter, as well as Tommy, who's living there as well. But this Friday, my office is hosting the site visit again with U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii, the Outreach Service, U.S. Department of Transportation, just to address the situation again and look at a more comprehensive solution. And then finally, we'll keep it for next month, but we will have the rest of the bill package on what I'm introducing, but majority of it is relating to education, and many are just directly, we're still introducing, as Rep. Matsumoto mentioned, because it's deadline tomorrow, but many are just a direct result of what we've heard directly from community. So with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Members of the audience, any questions for Representative Chica? Oh, I see Sabrina has her hand up. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Yes, I have 2 questions regarding measures that you introduced. I'd like to understand why you thought it was a good idea to introduce a measure that goes against this community's concerns regarding the SFA activities in the community and exempt them from the Sunshine Law.
I believe you're talking about the bill that would put the school impact fee into their.
No, it's the bill that would remove the School Facilities Authority from the Sunshine Law requirement of the state.
Yeah, I think it's all part of that
Nope,
that package with the impact fee, right?
It's a separate bill. It's House Bill 329.
Right. So I think that has to do with their working groups. So right now they have it exempts their working groups and subcommittees unless it's a permitted interaction group. And so those are still subject to sunshine is what when in my discussion with them.
So the SFA requested to be removed from the Sunshine Law?
That was part of their housekeeping measure, was for just the exemption that applies to the subcommittees or the working groups, but not for everything else that relates to the board for the School Facilities Authority. They're still subject to sunshine. It's just as it applies to the working groups within the board, the School Facilities Authority board.
Well, I'll wait to see what your measure actually says, but that's not what's written online. And then your House Bill 331 removes government entities from going through the permit process. What's your thought behind that?
So that one also puts into alignment what is already being done in all of the counties, including City and County of Honolulu, except for the Hawaii County. So right now, Department of Education, University of Hawaii, as well as School Facilities Authority, if they have one-to-one repairs, so let's say they need to, change a door or a window, they still have to pull a permit with the county. So, but they don't have to do that for all other state buildings. So it's already being done. It's already a practice. So it just puts that into alignment with the rest of the state building. So it just applies to the one-to-one repairs and renovations, unless the unless the county there's something in there that they could still be requested to do it.
I see Sherry Nakamura has her camera. I'm sorry, Sherry from
Oh,
SFA.
she's on.
Yeah. Do you wish to clarify that statement?
So regarding the first bill, I think there's an error on the description of the bill. Because if you look in the body of the bill, it's saying that the subcommittees and the work groups can do permitted interactions under the Sunshine Law. So somehow or another, the description of the bill says exempt from the Sunshine Law, which is not the case. So that needs to be clarified. And the second bill, Rep. Lachika is correct. Already state agencies can be exempted from permitting, but for schools in particular, there seems to be a practice of applying for a permit even though it's not needed. And so for certain larger projects, of course, it's needed, but for these smaller projects that are recurring, so like fixing a door or toilet or even painting or roofing, you actually don't need a permit. And so it's just putting in alignment, as Rep. Lachika mentioned, what's already allowed and just making it codified and clarified. I don't know if that helps, but that's my understanding.
Okay. Any other questions for Rep. Lachika? All right, seeing and hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 10:26, so that means we got 4 minutes. I'd like to recognize Representative Amy Peruso, who's been patiently waiting online. Last but not least, go ahead.
I will keep it super short. So thank you, Matt and Senator De La Cruz's office for going over some of the legislation. I would say that in the House, we have both the Environmental Caucus bill addressing the landfill issue, and then also there is also a group of us supporting House Bill 969. And from my perspective, that's the cleanest bill. It's written by Rep. Quinlan, and it would simply make citing a landfill over the aquifer illegal. So gonna put that in the chat in case anyone wants to look, but and also please subscribe to representativeamyperuso.com to get digital newsletters and updates. It's already so late and you have so much business. So I'll just maybe have additional time next time.
Members, any questions for Representative Peruso?
Yeah, so same thing, Amy, if you could, other legislators could get together and figure out how we get a consolidated report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get that. I'll work with Senator De La Cruz's office and the other representatives, and we can do like a mini briefing, what's happening in the House, what's happening in the Senate. And, it's not, those bills in the House are not going to public safety. They're going first to CPC and then to judiciary. So most of them are just being double referred. So we have a more leisurely kind of timeline.
Okay.
We'll have that information for you next time.
Final questions for Representative Peruso? Okay, thank you so much. We're sorry about that. I know today was a long agenda, but between sewage fees and others, no, I'm really grateful that everybody came out and this was a hefty agenda. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and defer the rest of the chairs and board committees reports. I'd like to segue to announcements to remind everyone, those listening online and those here in person, that candidate registration is open for neighborhood board. It will close Friday, February 21st. Our next board meeting will be February 26th. So please file before the next meeting. And you can catch us on Olelo. With that, thank you for coming in, and this meeting is adjourned.